thinking about, like, I don't know, anything we need to prepare or just...
Nope.
Just going for it?
Just go right for it. I mean, bro, I haven't seen you in literally, what, over 10 years?
Just about, yeah.
So, I mean, we'll take it as like a normal conversation. As the only difference is, I'll just say, Joe Sass.
Okay.
Appreciate you for coming.
Samson, appreciate you having me, brother.
Yeah, no doubt. But it's literally been like...
Are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's literally been, what, 10 years?
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit more. Because I probably haven't seen you since you were out of that house and I took it over.
Yeah. So it's been just over 10 years.
And that's a hilarious small world in the first place, because I end up, my freshman year at UMass Amherst, I end up on the first floor with Eric Toya, who grew up with your brother.
Grew up with me, went to high school with me.
Yeah.
He's friends with my brother, but all of us grew up 15, 20 minutes from each other.
Yeah.
And if the school with 25,000 people, what are the chances of that?
And then I grew up with Dave Ragnow in Enfield, and then Eric Toy ends up on my floor. He grew up with you guys, and then you and Dave became friends, what, at UMass?
Yeah, just somehow through the friend group. I don't even know how, honestly.
The Cornfields house, you called it the White House, right?
We called it the White House.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think Cornfield House is probably more appropriate, but we weren't that creative.
Yeah, for anybody listening, if you are near UMass Amherst, the street that splits the Walmart and the Target in half, if you go through that where the Target's on your left and the Walmart's on the right, like exactly a mile down the road, right?
South Maple
on the left, 140. Yeah, we tore that shit up for a while.
Oh my God, I'm telling you. We threw some bangers there.
Yeah, here, pull it a little bit closer to you.
Move it up?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able to hear it. And I'll compensate a little bit for it. But, yeah, man, so it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Honestly, I wouldn't have thought that even moving out here, I mean, being here for work, I'd see anyone that I knew. It's in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, but Malden's not too far. It was a little bit of a drive, but not
40 minutes?
Yeah, just about.
And where's the place that you're running?
So I run a drug and alcohol rehab. It's called Avenues Recovery Center.
Mm-hmm.
It is in, right now, Concord, New Hampshire, but we have 7 locations. So that's one of 7. So right now I'm spending my time here. My position is the chief clinical officer. So with that, I oversee all the clinical programming, making sure we're doing best treatment practices, making sure that the patients are getting everything that they need. And I think that brings us about kind of what we're talking about today we're talking Sober October and just having a conversation for people that are going through real addiction. This is fun for some people, going through it for the month and trying to challenge themselves. For others, it's a lifelong struggle. It's something that they have to fight. They're thinking about every day. It's an obsession. It's a genetic predisposition. They say about 10% of the population have a genetic predisposition towards addiction, enough that it would impact their life in a serious negative way. So this was a good challenge for myself. I'm not a person that's in recovery. That's kind of rare for being a person that's in the addictions field, not being in recovery myself. So
most of the people that work like in clinics and things like that are people that have like gone through it and want to get back in some way.
Yeah. I'd say a majority, more than 50% are people that are either previous addicts or people that have been impacted by it in some way, whether they're family, parents. I think just about everyone knows a friend or a family member that has had issues. I really don't know many people that don't. So myself personally, I've experimented and did different things growing up to be able to figure out what category I put myself into. Very fortunately, I was never someone that had real life struggles because of addiction, but I've seen it with different friends, and it's terrible. It's something that could take everything away from you, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. It really is something that takes a toll on people. So I wanted to get into this field. When I got into the psychology field to begin with, I wanted to make an impact. My parents always told me, when you want to do something when you're older, you want to do something where you could look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and feel good about it, but you also need to do something where you could feed your family. So this was a good place where I felt good about what I'm doing, and it's really something that I'm very proud of. So I like that I'm able to make an impact, and it's hard work. Working with this population is not something that's easy to do. And I was fortunate enough to find a job where it gives me meaning and purpose. But going through it this past month myself gave me a little look into the inside of how people are able to challenge themselves and really take things that are pressures and, not act on it, not act on your human impulse of just, this is your instinct. This is what you want to do. This is just immediate gratification. We live in a society that's just completely based off of immediate gratification. That's just how we grew up. I mean, that's how TV, society, movies, everything around us is based on, you see it, you want to do it, go for it, and worry about the consequences later. And that doesn't work for everyone.
No, not at all. And so, I feel like I probably fall into that 10%. Although I wouldn't say that I had a problem with anything before doing the Sober October Challenge.
Sure.
But I definitely feel like I have in the past, and that I fall into that predisposed 10%. Same with the predisposed whatever percent of depression that I'm sure is genetic as well.
Absolutely.
I heard this thing once. So Rogan had some guy on. I'll throw it in the comment section. But he had this guy on, and this dude focused on addiction, but from a perspective of alcohol. He had treatment facilities in California. But the interesting thing about what he said that kind of struck me in a way that I resonate with it was like, we treat alcoholics not like you can never touch alcohol again, but like there's a responsible way to do it. And that for some people, it must be all or nothing. And you need to figure that out and be honest with yourself from the beginning. Sure. I'm someone that is consistently tweaking my ways, but I don't think I need to be an all or nothing. I just would like to be a 60-year-old man that enjoys a nice 1 or 2 glasses of wine or one scotch or something like that, a joint once in a while. I've toned it down over the years more and more, but basically saying that for some of these, for some of the people that aren't all or nothing people when it comes to any kind of addiction, but he's talking about alcohol, it's like the burden of just thinking that you can never touch whatever it is, in this case alcohol, ever again is enough pressure in its own to kind of make you cave in.
So you bring up a really good point, and they talk about this percentage of people that have a genetic predisposition. Actually, they're able to identify the specific gene and purpose in the brain that identifies.
Like can test it?
Yes. And this gene is found in people that have addiction and people that don't have that gene in their brain. But what you bring up, you said, I feel like I'm part of that 10%, but you also don't identify as someone that has an addiction right now. So the example I always use with that is cancer. Cancer is something that is genetic. It's something that is biological. It's in some people. They have a predisposition to cancer. But if they don't pick up cigarettes, the chances of them developing cancer go down exponentially. If they do pick up cigarettes, it goes up very high. They're able to have these cancerous genes in them develop more rapidly than someone that doesn't have those. That's one of the examples I give. If there are genetic factors, there are things that you can know about yourself and say, I've seen this as a kid. I noticed that I drink differently than other people. I take drugs on. I notice there's something different about myself. So because of that awareness I have, I'm not going to put myself in those positions. I'm going to, whether it's I've noticed it in my family, I've noticed it just on my own of having insight. I know this about myself, so I'm not going to put myself in that position to have it develop. So it sounds like that's what you're describing, which is pretty cool that you have that insight.
Well, I mean, I've been more fortunate than other people have with certain opportunities. I've been able to, I've always been extra hard on myself, but for everything. So when it came to things that altered my sobriety, I was at the front I was what is too much for me and what my mind says you're abusing and doing too much starts far earlier than when most people's minds say you're abusing and doing too much. And arguably, even where me beating myself up over shit, even where my mind starts to say, this is too much, you're doing this compulsively, you need to stop, it's already too late.
Yep.
And I've been there with several different things, but honestly, listen, we'll get open as fuck in this podcast. Like, I even wrote like a disclaimer that I wanted to read for it, just because, there are situations, obviously we'll keep names out and everything like that are going to come up that are going to have to do with the people that we fucking at least in my situation, love the most. And like, I think it's important to get open about it because of just that. Like, it's the people that we absolutely love the most. I'm also very opinionated, and I'll also like almost make it seem like it's, you know, I'll talk in ways it's about bossing up on yourself, just like I'm saying now with recognizing I'm going down a slope and catching it. But it's because, you know, I've identified something that I want so badly for me not to be like, and for me not to have to go through that. I'm automatically going to be much more critical of, or just critical of anybody that I love that's going through it as well, because I love the shit out of them, and I would never even want that for me. So of course it's never something I'd want for you. Like I try to think that, and obviously there's some things that everyone's different. For one person, it's a different color that's their favorite, and blah, blah, blah. But when everyone can agree that these certain substances being addictive on it are just, is not good.
No.
And let me just fucking get into it since I'm feeling
talking here? Talk to me, man.
So, like, one of the closest people in my entire life that I would say is like a sibling to me has had an issue for about like, and it's kind of fucking, it's terrifying to even say, but basically had an issue with opiates for a third of his life, right? Same exact age as me. Like you can't be any closer to a blood relative, but not be a blood relative than this person is.
Are we talking about our friend that just celebrated 7 years?
What?
Are we talking about our friend that just celebrated 7 years?
No.
No? Okay.
No. This is way closer than him, and he's very close. He's
goes
close
to show you how many people it's impacted around us, and if we don't
for sure. And I'll tell you that there are at least 5 other people that I consider close friends, and at one point in time we're best friends that have also gone through it. Some of them are clean now, some of them aren't, but regardless, like the amount of pain that I've gone through and everyone else has gone through as a result of wondering, you know, whether or not they're just fucking alive in this moment, and you don't get a response back from them, and it's like, you know, they might think that they're just bailing, and to me, it's like the rest of my weekend is concerned on whether or not you're fucking dead or alive. Like, it's, and this is just the tip of the fucking iceberg for the amount of pain that comes out of it.
Has on people. It impacts families, friends in a way that they can't imagine most of the time.
Yeah, but I got opportunities that they didn't get, and put me and allowed me to be put in a better situation. But then years later, not even, I find myself in a situation where after a bad car accident, being put on SSRIs and benzos, and then being put on Adderall because of the effects that the SSRIs and the benzos are having on me. And we'll get into benzos later for sure, because I'm fully against those now too. But
one of the
Adderall,
biggest problems these days, if they talk about opiates, like their big problem, next big thing, benzos.
And they're an issue not only on, like, you know, maybe your kick on opiates is harder physical for that period of time, but it does not compare to the mental kick that you're going to go through and the depression that you'll end up going through from benzos. Like, so, but the thing is everyone on benzos has no idea about that. So you stop taking the
doctor gives it to you. It must be okay, right?
Yeah.
Just like with opiates, a doctor gives it to you. It must be
everyone knows if you start abusing opiates, you're going to have a horrible kick. Not everyone knows that if you take the normal amount of benzos they give you.
The way that people are able to rationalize things in their mind, I actually have pain. So maybe some people need 2, I need 5. They don't look at that as I'm abusing it. They look at that as I'm healing myself. This is a medication that a doctor gave me.
Exactly.
So you would think that most people would think if they're abusing their medication, they think that they're doing it on purpose. They think that they're getting a kick from it. I have seen situations that you would never imagine. 70-year-old men that can't mow their lawn without taking a fistful of Percocet. And they don't think that they're abusing it. They don't think that they're having fun. This isn't a club drug. This is something that they need to live. They can't roll out of bed in the morning. Just like some people need antidepressants to get out of bed. Just like some people have crippling anxiety and they need benzos to get out of bed in the morning. Same thing with opiates. Except where do you draw the line? That's the thing.
And at what point in time are you using, you know, first of all, your pain or your anxiety or your depression, regardless of the 3, anything that is given for one of those 3, it will be more frequent and much worse if you start abusing the things that you're taking for it.
Not everyone knows that. That is very correct. So if someone takes an opiate and they have a pain level in their knee of 5, if they're taking that opiate and they stop taking it, the pain level, not imagined, it actually goes up. Their body physically feels pain at an 8. But the more it goes down, then it goes down to a 7, then a 5, then a 4, then a 3. And the actual pain might just be a 2 on a regular basis if you're not taking anything. But if you're taking that on a regular basis and you build up a tolerance, the pain becomes worse in your body because the human mind is very strong.
Yeah.
It helps you create these different situations. It tells you that you have a tolerance, you have a need. It physically makes you feel more pain so that you take more of these pills that your body's becoming dependent on, which is pretty crazy because the human mind can do a lot of different things. An example I give with that is you were talking about anxiety. The human mind creates something inside a person's body, an ulcer. That's just based off of stress, anxiety, stress. It could develop something physically inside of you. It could have something manifest physically inside of you, an ulcer, just based off of the thought. You can't touch a thought, but then it could make something inside of you. Think about the opposite of that, though. That's what I always tell people, is give them a little bit of hope. If from that negative thinking, your body could develop something inside of you that could hurt you, like an ulcer.
Imagine the other way around.
Think of positive thinking. Think of how strong your human mind is and how powerful that could heal your body physically. Most people don't think about that.
Well, and so we end up here in Sober October, which everybody, people that are further away and think that it's strictly about drinking, or think that, like, just to be completely straightforward, like, it is far less about, and I said this in one of the videos that I did, it's far less about you have a problem, or you think maybe it's not even about that you're too excessive with it. This is about building discipline and and having commitment to yourself and holding yourself accountable. So here's the other way around, what amazing things an individual could end up doing when you use it the other way around. The challenge is more just about picking something that will, no matter what, be difficult to do for 30 days. It's not saying you have an issue. It's not saying that is actually an inappropriate time to do it. It could be a completely appropriate time. Sure. It's just here will be several roadblocks that will be hard. If you make a commitment to yourself, will you be able to hold it? So even when people fall off of that train, I hope that they realize that I set this all up more so. Like, imagine what a person can do after they start giving themselves these little cookies of self-reinforcement that's
confidence.
Yeah,
that
confidence without instant gratification.
So I'm going to just put it out there. You're an animal. I've seen what you've been doing for Sober October. I can't lie and put myself in that same category. I challenged myself in a smaller way. I tried not to drink for the month of October. And actually, my mom did it with me also.
Really?
She's an Italian. She doesn't have any kind of issues. Our entire life, my parents didn't keep beer in the fridge, didn't keep wine. Holidays, they'd have a couple glasses of wine. But at night, sometimes, she'll have a glass of wine. I was like, Mom, I'm doing the Sober October thing. Do you want to try it with me? She's like, well, I don't have a problem. I'm like, it's not about that. I don't think you have a problem. I was like, I'm just trying not to do it. I'll be honest. I stopped doing drugs years ago. It's just something that I didn't do.
Like completely?
Completely. Yeah. I used to experiment here and there. Stopped doing it. It's been a while.
And was that in line with the new job at all?
I can't say. Honestly, most people ask that. I've been at this new job for about 3.5 years. Honestly, less about that, more about growing up. For someone that used to be an experimenter, casual user, here and there, things that never got out of hand, it really was part of growing up. I had a job. I had to get up in the morning. Didn't want to be sluggish. Didn't want to be hungover. So I took the step and I said, screw it. I'm going to see if I could do this. Almost like a Sober October thing for myself. And then I just stopped buying weed. Then I was like, if someone lights up a joint, I'm not going to buy it, but maybe I'll take a hit. And then it became less desirable to me. And I didn't even start thinking about it. And I was like, I've gone this far. Why not just keep on going with it? So, alcohol is the only thing that's still in my life. And it's something that I do less and less frequently, but I'll still indulge. So I thought it would be a good challenge to say, why not? Yeah,
for sure. And, that kind of made me think of how, even the way that I've had addictive properties around marijuana in the past, and what I'm thinking of other people that are close to me, when you're a hustler,
sure.
If whether that's someone that decides that they want to buy an eighth and makes it and sell it for 40 and make the extra 0.5 worth off of the 3.5 or whatever the fuck it is that they got for their price break, or this is someone who buys pounds or buys pill prescriptions or buys whatever it was. See, like, I only would ever push weed and mushrooms. I didn't think it was morally right to move anything else. But
I was going to ask, where did you draw the line? Did you have the opportunity to sell other things?
I basically drew the line at anything that if someone else abused it could kill them.
Okay.
So like, and I would take acid out of that. Like if you took too much acid, I mean, it could fuck you up, but like, come on, that and like mushrooms, you could take too much, you're going to have a bad trip, but it's not going to kill you. But I always drew the line at like basically natural, sure. Hallucinogen natural, you know. Not to say that there's probably a couple times in between there was like giving it to friends or something like that, but otherwise nothing like no. I never moved any like opiates or anything like that. You know, any of the what I would consider like the hard ones. Mm-hmm. Not on a scale that I was doing stuff like moving weed, but you know.
Do you know people that did
with opiates?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people that did, and they all also completely went down. I mean, it's not even necessarily it's not even necessarily like they were getting high on their own supply, but then listen, there's something that people need to acknowledge. You can sell as much weed as you want. I had a close friend, someone that I love to fucking death. He sat me down in a car one day. He goes, Samson, you got to come start moving this heroin. He's like, I made $20,000 last week. The week before that, I made $18,000. The week before that, I made $15,000. This clientele is like clockwork. And you know what? He's right. You need to get several different numbers. Once you have pills or heroin, the way that clientele works, think about it. I feel like I'm going to die if I don't have it. Obviously, it's going to be like clockwork. I never could get with it. That same person, I didn't talk to him, and then like a year and a half, 2 years later, I'm back home, I'm driving, and I get this feeling. I look in the corner of my eye while I'm driving, I see this dude skinny as fuck, eyes shadowed out as fuck, with a dog on a rope, and he's on his mountain bike. I still love him to death, and if he's listening, he knows I love him to death, and I would go to bat for this dude any day of the fucking week. But it pains me to see, and people need to know how far this went down. This went from I was making 20 G's a week, and you know, no regard for who the fuck bought it and the situation that they're in and that you might be adding to the problem, to coming back like that. And you want to know what? Maybe it does come, maybe karma does come back around like that, because you always knew you shouldn't have been fucking doing it in the first place. Like, you know.
I can't even speak to that. I don't even know how that would make you feel. That's incredibly terrible to hear that about a friend that's that close to you. They could see him fall that hard. I could say that I've seen it on a professional level. I've never seen a friend in that type of situation. That hurts. That hurts bad.
Yeah. I mean, I ripped over. You know, I'm loyal to a fault, so I still made sure I went and talked to him. But I don't know where he's at now. I don't know where he's at now. All I know is it went from normal conversations and just hustle mind state to everything is about a warrant and an arrest and another charge going on and people breaking into my house and I got a shotgun to my face and this and that. And it's like, you really want to go through your life dealing with this shit.
Not worth the money.
No. And, you know, so let's wrap back really quick.
Sure.
At what point in time can someone start fixing themselves so that pain does get back to it too? How does that process look? Because, correct me if I'm wrong,
sure.
The body, when you're addicted, even severely addicted to opiates, really only needs, 5 to 12 days before it's completely out of the body and it's now just a mental you want it thing, not a physical you need it thing.
I got to be honest, the way that you're saying that is downplaying it.
I know, so I need you to put me in check, please. Yeah.
So, yes, if you are going through an opiate withdrawal, it could be about a week of hell. I'm talking both sides, throwing up, can't stand up, you're feeling dehydrated, you can't have any kind of motivation for anything. You go through a week of hell. That's what detox is. And to get through a physical detox for opiates or alcohol, for both of those, they actually give you benzos. And that's a short period of time. They'll usually give you about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks worth of prescriptions of benzos so you can not physically be at danger. Alcohol is probably the most dangerous withdrawal that you could go through. If you're an alcoholic, you're drinking, half a gallon a day, and then you stop cold turkey, you could have a physical seizure. And that is something that's very dangerous. Having something physically happen to you from an opiate withdrawal, chances are a lot smaller. It's a lot more dangerous for benzo and alcohol to go through that type of detox and withdrawal. But one of the hardest mental withdrawals that you could go through is an opiate withdrawal. That's why it's such a big problem in our country. You could go through that 5-day detox 10, 20, 30 times of telling yourself that one day, I can't do this. Maybe you ran out of money. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you lost your family. And you're like, screw it. You pick up the phone and you call someone to get help. And you call up a rehab or some sort of hospital and you say, I just need to get clean. They'll put you on medication, a number of different things for about a week. And you'll stay there monitored 24 hours and you'll get fluids and you'll get medications and you'll get through that physical detox withdrawal. Then's the hardest part. Then you want to go through something after. That's where a facility like mine comes in, and you have either a 30, 60, or 90-day recovery. And this is something where you're rehabbing. You're learning how to try on new behaviors. You're trying on new emotions. That's why it's group therapy and not just individual therapy, because you want to talk to people. Because usually you're in a bubble. Your world becomes very small when you're using drugs. You are someone that maybe travels the world, and then you lose your job and your world becomes here to the corner because that's where your drug dealer is. You could be someone that has all the things in the world, making $20,000 a year. That's not an uncommon story. I mean, I know people that have had millions of dollars. They've had everything, and they always find a way. It's really incredible. I don't even want to get into the details. We live in a technological world these days where you could get drugs sent to your door from China at a press of a button. It's really incredible how accessible these things are. It's not just going to the corner, that's where your dealer is. We live in a world of technology these days.
Especially if you got money or access to something like, it's not there anymore, but there's things like the Silk Road, right?
Yeah,
things
the
like
dark
that.
web, those different types of things. It's crazy.
So after that 2-week period of physical kick, is the pain is someone that has that example that has what could normally be a ranking out of 2 that feels like it's at an 8 every day. How does that pain immediately change to a 2? How long down? That's your an entire body needs to go through a healthy.
So you're just not at physical risk of dying after that 2 weeks. Let me be clear. That detox is they're just medically monitoring you so you don't have something like a seizure. Are you feeling good after 2 weeks? Absolutely not. Honestly, I say that it's probably about 6 months before your body really gets back to that homeostasis of just feeling
6 months being
normal.
Healthy and clean. Yeah.
6 months healthy, clean. And the best example I give of this, of when you're not feeling right, if you're not feeling right mentally, you're not feeling right physically. When they take a picture of people's brains, when they are on drugs, it's a physical different shape than when they're not on drugs. And it takes about 6 months for your brain to get back to your original shape. Which, again, that example of what I was talking about, how powerful the human mind is, think about the shape of your brain being different. Think about the impact that has on everything else in your body. And it takes 6 months for that to get back to normal. So you're not thinking straight. You're not talking straight. You're not articulate. You're not doing anything that you normally would do because your mind is not right. And that's why our program at Avenues, it's a 90-day program for our facilities. The old model of 30 days or 28, 30-day rehab, it doesn't work. It really doesn't. And I'm not trying to plug our place. I'm just trying to say that this is the new model that people are seeing. The old model of go to 28 days, people would relapse back and forth. And the recidivism rate of people going through a 30-day rehab.
I heard it was 96% of people fuck up within 24 hours of leaving rehab.
Yes. That's essentially what it is. I heard 70%, 90%. Who knows? It's hard to measure that.
But still, even if it was 70, even if it was 60, it's still too much.
So the best advice I could give you, the best gift you could give yourself, if you are someone that's listening to this and you're looking to get help, have something that's long-term. The best thing that you could give yourself for long-term recovery, the best way to be successful is to have that foundation at the beginning. Take as much time, build off of the strength. It's hard. It's harder than most people will ever understand. But if you got a month, do another month, do another month. Try to get as much time under your belt as you possibly can. And that is the biggest factor in deciding long-term sobriety, that amount of time that you could get up front. So if you could live in a sober home after you go to treatment, if you don't have the resources, stay in something like that for a long time. Do anything you can to be able to give yourself that amount of time up front because it's hard out there.
Yeah. So So we could get to sober home in a second, but you had said before that a lot of places will prescribe Klonopin for a certain period of time.
Xanax, Klonopin,
For how long? And because another really dear friend that I fucking love to death came back from a rehab one time and had 3 different benzo prescriptions, and of course those became an issue too, and she got them for way longer than a few weeks. I mean, and this wasn't a few weeks while she was there. This is months after. And then I
don't know any place that would do that. I don't know any reputable place that would do that.
Yeah. It was a big money one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are people in this business that could do it the right way, and there are people that could do it the wrong way, just in any industry, I guess. I would never, ever hear of a doctor recommending a benzo to someone that has addiction issues more than after a 2-week period to be able to physically get them through that withdrawal. And I do think that is what people need. So they're not at physical risk.
Okay.
If they have a benzo withdrawal, they need to taper themselves off. If they have an alcohol withdrawal, that's one of the only things that could stop them from having a seizure. So these medications, there is a need for them. They are medications for a reason. They are prescribed to some people that have actual crippling anxiety. People have had traumas in their life where they can't sleep at night without something like this on lower doses.
Yeah.
It's when people abuse it. And someone that is identified as an addict, that's not the type of person that would be prescribed this type of thing for a long time. You would really, the only model that works is complete sobriety. Being completely clean from everything. That's the only thing that gives person long-term success, because there's something called cross addiction. And that's a chemical process in a person's brain that they get rid of one thing, then they pick up another. That's what you're describing.
Yeah. And so which would add to your point even more of like, if you should do it for more long term, because if a place was doing it right, then you'd get something like that to help you short term on less than a month type of a time frame, right? Yep. And then you would still be within an area that, you know, it isn't allowing you to immediately leave and now maybe say, oh, well, I'm clean off of this, but that really helped with what I already had for anxiety, because you probably do have anxiety and you probably are depressed if you're at the point where you need to go to rehab, because you've probably been living a depressed ass life and been fucking up your shit for a while.
But there are non-benzodiazepine anxiety medications, and that's the type of medication that you would prescribe for someone.
So is that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we prescribe.
So like what?
There are non-addictive types, probably like 2 or 3 different types of anxiety medications that you would prescribe. I'd say that the 2 most things that are common are antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication.
Yeah, and usually they're joint.
Yeah. And a lot of the times they are, because those things go hand in hand of what people are experiencing. Another thing is, you also mentioned ADHD. That's another common thing, but there are non-amphetamine type of medications that people could have for ADHD that could help them concentrate, help them focus, but they don't give you that rush. They don't, and not everyone gets that rush, but they're amphetamines. They have amphetamine properties that give people energy, and sometimes that helps people focus. Sometimes that helps people have a good time. But there are different alternatives that you could give people that wouldn't put them in that category and wouldn't set off the same receptors in a person's brain that would lead them back to their drug of choice.
Yeah, and so anybody that's listening that may need to make a decision, like sending someone that they love to rehab, all right, so you should need to understand what are the time frames that this person can stay at your facility. What are the different medications you could give my loved one to cope with X, Y, and Z, whether that's kicking from a physical perspective or any other mental perspectives or things that they have like ADHD or anxiety that are already going wrong. I personally will always be against antidepressants, but I'm not a doctor, and I know that some people actually do need them. But what are those things as well? And because I think there are, like you said, like some people do it the right way, some people do it the wrong way. But for every person out there that has been fucked over by the system and sent someone and cost them thousands and thousands of dollars to come back with either more issues or just not a good chance of actually getting better, like people aren't talking about this shit. It's the only thing that everyone knows someone that either they love or is less than a degree away or is on their fucking doorstep that they walk past every day, or on their doorstep like it's their neighbor that has an issue, and yet we all still feel like such little pussies when it comes to talking about it.
There's all those people that we know that you just described, those people that have issues or that are on their way to have an issue. The scariest part is most of the people that you walk by, you have no idea.
Yeah.
They have issues and they're hiding it. Addiction is sneaky.
I mean,
when you're talking about something like marijuana. At one point, that's a drug. That's a party drug. You're passing it going around a party. When you get to the harder stuff, things that you're putting up your nose, that's dirty. That is a drug. That's a dark drug. You're hiding in the bathroom. You're closing that. You're doing that by yourself. That's not something you're doing out in the open. So those things are secretive. Those are things that people aren't talking about, and that's something that you develop. And that's the thing that takes your finances away from you, takes your job away from you, just because your personality or your motivation or those types of things are changing subtly. People can't put their finger on it, but they notice that something is going on. That's the scarier population. You're talking about all the people where you're observant of it, and there's still not people doing anything about it. You can't do anything about it for all those people that you don't even know have those issues.
Well, the friend that I said that is like blood to me. I mean, I wrote him a letter one time because we were both going through shit. It's just I had recognized that I was going through it with Adderall when I had a different type of professional career. And you know, I definitely probably made excuses about it for a while and said that, you know, to me it was like the kind of work I was doing was just so not interesting that I actually couldn't pay. And I'm sitting down and
it's amazing the rationalizations that you can make.
Exactly, yeah, because I have a desk job now and it's fine, right? But regardless, I remember like saying to him, you know, your problem throws you down and gets you addicted to a point where, like, you know, you don't have anything and it's ruined you. My problem, I have all this fucking responsibility and all this other shit at the same time. And when there's a difference between having an addiction issue where you can throw money around and one where you cannot, and they're going to lead in different directions, but they're both going to end up showing different ways of gratifying impulsive desires through instant gratification, whether that's buying shit or the mental state you end up getting in while you're doing. I mean, you're at the end of the day, you're living high all the time. And I know for a fact that, like, I don't even need to feel embarrassed when I talk about taking Adderall and the fact that it had become an issue, because the amount of people at every job I worked at that have been zooted off of some type of form of amphetamine or fucking meth every single day, all being assholes, all being whatever, was absolutely mind-blowing.
Brother, I've been through undergrad and 2 different types of grad school. Think of all the rationalizations. Oh, we have to study. We got to take this test. We need to be on point. It's not just professionals. It's students. You could rationalize it any single way. Every student, not every, a large part of every student, that population I've been a part of, you're finding people that are on some sort of amphetamines, whether it's...
There's an Adderall guy in college. I'm pretty sure every family member gave him a prescription that they had, and that shit got circulated. But I see, all right, so this brings up a really good point, and which we were talking about on the phone before you came too. I never had any type of abusive issue with any drug, including Adderall. I didn't even really ever take Adderall in college. My first 4 years in college, well, got cut short because all that other shit, but my first 3.5 years in college, all right, I had a 4.0 when I got rated and kicked out of UMass. And when I got drug tested, I came up clean on everything. I never took Adderall. I didn't need, and so the important part that I want to circle back to is because there was some community in my life. I felt like a lot of the things that I was doing outside of being in school and outside of learning, not doing one repetitive ass thing over and over and over. I like learning. And when I went to learn, I went and learned and sat next to people I was friends with and cool with every day. I ate with people I fucking loved and I was cool with. I went to the gym. There was, you know, a bunch of hot girls around, a bunch of my boys around. There was activities for me to do. Yeah, it was a great environment. It was a great rap park.
No better place than UMass Amherst, let me tell you. Put it out there for the zoo.
Yeah,
it's a great place.
When you're happy, especially at a place like UMass, which is like the college movie,
it's everything that you think of when you see a movie, college experience. Yep. You have the sports, you have the parties, you have every type of social environment that you would want. I couldn't have picked a better place. I loved it there.
I absolutely loved it too. It was like a movie for sure.
Yeah.
But point being, I had a community, right? I wasn't I may have needed to go to school and learn, and maybe these are all things I'm never gonna use this ever, and this is some random ass shit. But I kind of like this one, and I kind of like this one, but I was still in a community, so I'm not doing the same repetitive thing every day. And what I guess I'm getting at is, even though, listen, I have a goal, and my carrot in front of me is get that fucking degree. So regardless of what I need to do to get it, it is I'm gonna suck it up and do it. But when you get out of college, and then you may not have picked the career path that is right for you or that you actually want, and now you're drowning in debt, and you realize that the only thing what you're doing in this career that you fell into is the only one you're actually worth any money in anymore, and you don't like it and you don't love it, and you're not with friends and family. Maybe you don't work with anyone that you love or that you hang out with and would call a friend. You're not with friends and family every single day. You're not eating with people that you might not be, eating with people you love every day. Right? It's going to be a lot easier for anything, whether that's weed or Adderall or anything, to become an issue, because there's no community involved in your existence.
And community is one of the biggest protective factors in helping people when they're in recovery. This is something that I've heard before. You have heard about this, but in the recovery community, they say that the opposite of addiction is not recovery, it's community. Community is something that helps a person stay engaged in what their goals are. It's something that helps, whether it's an AA meeting, whether it's just going to church, whether it's just their family, whether it's their friends. Having people around you holding you accountable and motivating you and giving you a purpose in life. Maybe it's your nephew, maybe it's your girlfriend, but just having people around you, having a community of people around you is going to hold you accountable and help you get through the tougher times. If you're by yourself, there's no one that cares if you're high. There's no one that cares if you're doing this or that. You can do whatever you want. Surround yourself with as many people as possible. You make a fantastic point. That's really cool that you said that just naturally, but that's a common saying that people bring up.
Well, you and I on the phone before we were talking, and I brought up that Rat Park example. And I may not have the numbers exactly right, but the gist of it goes that when we first tested the addictive properties of cocaine and heroin, the way that they did it was a rat in a cage, 2 water bottles. One was water, one would be diluted with heroin. And then the rat would go back to the heroin 80% of the time. And that's how they measured, this is an extremely addictive
Literally
thing.
choosing drugs over water, sustenance to help them live.
Exactly. And then in 73, this professor came along and was like, why the fuck are we testing this rat alone in a cage, alone in a small cage? So they built this big ass thing, Rat Park. Other girl rats it could fuck, other guy rats it was homies with, they can wrestle with. They put a bunch of spinning wheels and they had good food, and it completely did a 180, and it went to the water 80% of the time and went to the one with diluted with heroin 20% of the time. So ever since I heard that, and back in college, and that popped into my head of like, okay, so yeah, it is about community. So I realized and back then started to implement, or try as hard as I can to implement, for the friends that I know that were going through this. In what way could I act as a Rat Park when I was around them and with time with them? And of course, there was many years of me needing to understand the difference between helping and enabling, and the line becomes incredibly thin. Every year that there's still issues, and every 9th time they're out of rehab and still fucking up, the line between helping and fucking enabling becomes so thin. So what's some of like the advice you would give to me or family or friends of anyone who has someone where they're on their 10th rehab, okay? They've been fucking up. You've gone back. You know that you can't give them money. You need to buy them food. You know that you can't be passive about shit anymore because they don't know that because you got a mad face on. They're high. So they don't. Yep. You need to tell them, I know you're fucking high right now.
That's right.
And now, what do you tell them about how they say, I know you're high right now, whether that's the tone or anything? Because half of what I know some of them are really going through is they're trying so hard, but anyone that you could even consider close enough to be a community that would matter or that would be in their life on a regular basis every single day is still, and rightfully so, is still giving them so much shit because now they can't go out and do anything without someone being like.
Follow your question with another question. Why do you think that those people are doing that?
Because they put them through 10 years of shit. I mean, they love them to death, so they're just so worried that they're going to fuck up again. And they're so scared about it that the way that ends up coming out comes
down to one word. And you just said it a couple different ways. Love, fear, worry. It's fear. They are scared to death that their loved one is going to go back to drugs. So I'm going to give you $10. You're saying you're not going to use it. It's only $10. It is all fear-based. Addicts use fear tactics with their family, with their friends, and say, this is something that I need. But as long as someone has a roof over their head and $1 in their pocket, that's going to keep them in that circle. That's going to keep them in that perpetuating circle of using. The only way that you could do it is by tough love. And that does not come naturally to a mother whose instinct is to nurture and whose instinct is to love and give till it hurts. A mom, a dad, a brother, a sister. These are the people that are going through this. These are not strangers to us. These are the ones that we want to do anything for them. We want to give the shirt off her back. But sometimes that person's going to take that shirt and sell it for $5 and use it for drugs. That's just the reality of it. People will do anything they can because, like you said, in their mind, they feel like they're going to die if they don't have this drug. So they will manipulate. They will use fear, and their parents are afraid to death that something's going to happen to them if they don't take care of them. So they're going to continue time after time to take them back into their house and provide them with a place to go when, honestly, maybe the only thing that's going to help them is that rock bottom. It's that night when they need to sleep under a bridge and it's raining out. And these are upper-class people, not even upper-middle-class people. These are people with money. But for a mother that has a mansion at her house and says, I'm going to change the locks on my door, you're not welcome here. Sometimes I think that you need to feel this pain before I'm going to help you out. I'm not going to bail you out again because that might actually kill you. Me giving you that $1, me giving you a place to stay, a place to get high, that might actually be the thing that's going to kill you. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm sorry. I'm going to say tonight, you're not welcome here. And it hurts me, but I think that you need to feel that rock bottom. Maybe you need to feel that to make the decision inside yourself to say, I'm not going to do this again. If even the people that have always done something for me, always have bailed me out, are saying no to me, it might be that time. That might be what they need. But it's fear. That's why people are continuing to enable. A lot of the time, that's what I see.
So, I mean, are these things that, like, you know, I know that there are groups for people that they're not the ones with the issues. They have loved ones with issues, and it's for them to go. I mean,
Al-Anon is the biggest one.
Al-Anon?
Yeah, so there's Alcoholics Anonymous, and then there's Al-Anon, which is for the loved ones of people that go to NA and NA meetings. So they're not themselves afflicted, but their relatives or their loved ones are people that are afflicted with addictions. And a lot of that is teaching them really assertiveness training and learning how to say no and what the warning signs are and what to do in these certain situations. And it very much is group therapy based where you're talking to people that have been through what you've been through and they say this works or this doesn't work. So try this or maybe stay away from that. That might be a waste of time. Maybe this will perpetuate it, but it's groups of people that get together and learn from each other how to work with their loved ones.
Yeah, so that's good. So they will go through, like, saying it like you just said it, right? And about, like, you know, you can't stay here and things like that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously, so at first I was asking because it was like, yeah, you know, I hope that they are saying what you just said. And then, you know, I just thought about it again, and it's just like, but still,
easier said than done, though.
How hard. I mean, in all honesty, like I said, the line between
that I would
helping
do it if I had a loved one.
Yeah.
I can't say I would.
I mean, it has been probably a solid 12-year, maybe more like a solid, 12-year run of it being firsthand with people I love in my life. So all the things I could think back on from, you know, there was a time I didn't want to give them actual cash, so I gave a gift card, and you think that is gonna change anything, and it doesn't, and then there's me putting up another like fucking fed up brick and another fed up brick and whatever. But it's
I'm a professional in this, and I still don't. I know the things to say. I know the best thing for the person, And I still don't know if I could make that decision because it's that difficult.
Yeah.
Think about the people that don't know the right thing to say, and just maybe in their gut they think it's the right thing to do, but it's hard. It's easier said than done. Like you said, even giving a gift card, people trade gift cards for drugs. It might be worth $20. It might trade it for $5, whatever it is. You never know.
Yeah.
So these are the types of things that I only know from hearing story after story and sitting face to face with a client, a patient, and saying, listen, tell me your story. Tell me your pain. Tell me everything that you've done. Tell me the nitty gritty. Tell me the things that you would never tell anyone else. And these are things that I hear on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Those are not the things that you're telling your mom.
Yeah. And you know what? Shout out to my fucking mom, because everything I've already said on this podcast, she's aware of. You know,
Pretty
like
cool
I've had a
relationship.
very, 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 very honest and truthful my entire life relationship with my mom. And that also has probably saved me at times.
No doubt
There
about
have
it.
been times that I was going down with a bunch of other things, but just being able to talk with her about it,
Honestly.
being like, I'm fucking losing my shit, you know, and to be able to get into the shitty stuff. But all right, so for everybody that maybe there's some people even that are listening, and maybe this is not a 10-year situation, maybe this is just beginning to happen. Is there any evidence behind obviously the quicker to tough love, the higher probability and faster chance that they're going to get better, right? It's that whole, you don't get in the
sooner you
shower
get help, the
lukewarm
better.
and turn it up, and you could stand the all hot.
Yeah.
If it's up all hot immediately, like a slap on the hand the first time something does it, we're very firm, then you're not going to jump in, right? But if you slowly allow things to happen a little bit over time, you could be in the steaming hot shower. You just can't get in right away.
Well, you hit the nail on the head again with talking about not letting a stigma or embarrassment or guilt or shame get in the way. The more honest you're able to be with those around you, the more people can help you. When you try to white knuckle it, as they say, and I'm going to try to wean myself off of this, or I'm going to try to quit on my own, or I'm different than other people, and you're keeping that secret to yourself, secrets keep people sick. If you've got a person in your life that you can be honest with, put it out there. They will be able to shoot you straight. They will be able to give you that tough love if they love you enough and they have enough of that confidence to be able to say it to you, and you're not too afraid and you're not too ashamed to say these things and put it out there. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself. If you're not going to put it out there and you're going to try to hold on to that secret yourself, it could take years and it could take a lot of things away from you. It could take everything away from you. That's what addiction does. It'll literally takes everything that you have in your life away from you slowly but surely. If you're able to recognize it in yourself, like you were talking about earlier, if you have insight and you're isolating and you're having trouble with your relationships and you're recognizing that your tolerance is being built up and you're using this drug that used to be something casual in a social circle, and now you're doing it by yourself, and now you're doing it more frequently, and now you're feeling anxiety if you can't get it, and you're feeling pressure on yourself for no other reason, look in the mirror, say to yourself, I got to talk to someone about this. Maybe they'll be able to give me some sort of insight into what to do. And if someone is listening to this and they really do need help, reach out to Samson, reach out to myself. He could connect you with me and we'll give you help. That's one thing that I want to put out there. Just want to put this out there. People are listening and they're talking about Sober October. Maybe they have an inclination of, I was doing something more than I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us.
Yeah,
I want to put this out there.
I'll have the information below in this episode on YouTube too.
Please do, because I want to take that away from this as well. If people are listening that need help, I don't want to just to have this as a conversation. I want this to be a forum for people that could recognize that they could get some help, and options are out there.
For sure. And I mean, that's why I have this, right? Not, I mean, this conversation particularly, but in general, like I want to help people. So
Sure.
like I will turn absolutely no blind eye. I would not ever turn my head if I ever saw a comment or a direct message or anything like that had to do with this subject here. So if you need help, I'll point you in the right direction, or I'll have a fucking conversation with you.
Yep.
If that's what it comes down to.
You don't need insurance. You don't need money. There are options out there for everyone. You don't need state funding. There are options out there for every single person. If you're looking for help, we'll be able to find you help.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I mean, even when I first started running into these things, I would hear the cost of some of these rehabs and it would blow me away. And you know, we're probably we could get to why we're in a better time now with things like funding and everything, but while we're still here, I mean, I couldn't help but think before, so I'll use depression as the example for me. But arguably, a lot of the reason why the people's addictions are probably continuing may have been or is because they're depressed or in some sort of depression.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had times in my life.
It's numbing pain a lot of the time. It's running away from an emotion that you don't want to feel, whether that's depression or something else.
Now, like, I don't know how many people know this. I'm pretty open about it. But, like, I have been on a different level of depressed. Like, let me tell you the amount of times that like suicide has been a normal thought for me in the past. And this is, here's where there's no turning back. Here's where there's no turning back. Ain't no one giving. And this also worries me about the way that they document mental health shit and everything now, because like, here's where I'm never getting a normal fucking job again, right? I'm a job like that. I mean, I need to be as open with every employer as like it possibly could be. Now I'm on the fucking airways, but I just know that this is going to help people, so I'll say it, which is like, I know I can at least comprehend why people probably cut. Have I ever been a cutter? No, but I understand when you have so much fucking pain that it would make sense. Wouldn't it be fucking nice if this pain was coming from something that was actually a real wound and painful, right? So, and my thing came from after being put on Klonopins, and everyone is different, and for some people things like that are good and whatever, but I didn't know that my anxiety would get worse once I got off of Klonopins. I didn't realize that the small amount of milligram, 1 to 1.5 milligram I was taking a day of a benzo was enough to fuck me up mentally. And when you look at benzo withdrawal, these are 6 to 18 months after you're done taking it. Yep. You could be going in and out. You have a great month and then you have a plummet month. But when you don't know this, then you think something is wrong with me. So that's
irresponsible prescribing, because
for sure,
people that are in the field, if they're prescribing, they know that Klonopin especially, even more than other benzos, there's something called a spike that happens directly after a spike of two things. One, the original symptom, anxiety, and two, your blood pressure. Your blood pressure is through the roof. So even if you're not anxious mentally, you're feeling it because your blood pressure is sky high. And that is just a direct result of coming off that medication. So
well,
you have to be very careful in that tapering. And even if you do tapering in the quickest way, in the safest way, it's still going to happen. And that's an expectation that they should give you.
Yeah. And these were me making, I moved like 11 times in 10 years. So I'd always end up losing my doctor for like 4 or 5 months. So for like a long time period, probably like 7 years, I went through these moves. I had no idea that I was about to get really extra depressed because I had stopped taking this thing and get extra bad anxiety. And then I'd be like, bro, are you at your action? I was convincing myself basically, something is actually wrong with you. Maybe it just is so much in the family or something like that. Like I got to the point where I actually had thought I shouldn't fucking reproduce because this is so bad. And I am so glad I didn't off myself before I got better and realized that it was all literally just from continuously taking these things. But the amount of people in corporate America that are on Adderall during the day and take a benzo at night is a ridiculous amount of people. And I'm not perfect, and I'm admitting that I've done shit in the past, but I've cleaned the fuck out of my lifestyle, and I can understand. I've had a long enough time to know like there was a huge difference. But why I even started this rant in the first place was when you're depressed like that on an everyday, and it doesn't feel, where it actually feels like it might be a good idea to just not be here anymore. I also remember, like, I'm very open and honest with my mom. And, I've also heard that people that talk about, that are willing to even get into talking about it. Like, I'm a talker. I have a fucking podcast that's long format. People that are even willing to talk about it are way less likely to actually go and pull the trigger or something like that. Sure. Which is that's good if you get it out. But I also remember the closest people to me, and which are my best friends and etc. How the fuck were they ever gonna understand this? How, so what I want to know, and I don't even know if there's a good answer for this, but like whether this is advice to loved ones or if you're giving advice to me back on the days that were like this for me, and sometimes it would be nonstop every day, months. I mean, there was probably years, and I got a front on the entire time. I got arrested. Jonathan the other day in the podcast said she don't think I got a resting bitch face. I think I do, and I think it's from being able to need to go through situations like this, like everything's actually fucking fine, and it's not. Because I've said to best friends in the past, I'm really fucking depressed right now, and I would get responses like, what is there to be depressed about? And then people might try to start telling you about, reminding you of all the good things that you do actually have when you're in a situation like me, not near a rock bottom. Yeah. So I guess maybe we're saying it out loud together, but what are you telling to the person that told me that, or to the loved ones that are going to be hearing this from someone like me? And what are you telling me? Or what would advice be?
Just listen. That's probably the best thing
just
that you
listen
could do.
to 'em.
I would say just listen to them.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really anything that you could tell a person in that state of mind, whether they're depressed or anxious, that's going to make them feel better. You're not going to tell a joke that's going to make them smile, that's going to crack anything. Right now, they need someone that's not trying to fix and someone that's just going to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And that is lethargic in itself. That's going to make them feel better if they just have some sort of outlet and they're not holding it in anymore. Just be a person that's able to listen to them. And then maybe another day when they're in a better state of mind, you could talk to them about how they couldn't get help, or how they could talk to a doctor, or how they could go to a different place that could offer them something. But in that time, when they just need to get it all out, just listen. That'd probably be my best advice.
And and what are you saying to me, who was like, should I or shouldn't I even pick up the phone, because how the fuck are they gonna ever, how could they they'll never be able to get this. Even someone listening to this right now, after I just said what I've gone through in my life, is still gonna think he's never gonna be able to understand this. Should they just call? Because if this is someone who fucking loves them, then they should shut up and listen.
I think the best thing to that is a cliche line that a lot of people say of, you never know the struggle that other people are holding on to. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that are beneath the person's surface, and why not share? Because that person may have experienced something and can offer you some piece of hope, some bit of faith that maybe this person does know what I'm going through. So I'm going to share it with them, and I'm going to take that chance, and I'm not going to be afraid, again, to be who I am and let them know what I'm experiencing. And maybe they've experienced that same thing, and maybe they could offer me something, or maybe they're just going to listen and it's going to make me feel better. But if you're that person, put it out there. Let someone know. You'd be surprised what people have to offer you.
Yeah, I think I needed to hear that at one point in time in my life, and I think other people need to hear that now. And one thing I've been guilty of lately, I don't think, even I know I'm probably getting some of it twisted, because look at me over here, like I'm doing Sober October and all of these things. So naturally, anyone who's aware of me doing these things in my own self-improvement thing may think that I'm trying to fix. I don't think that I try to fix. What I do think I do a lot, and I'm probably guilty of, and maybe doing a little bit too much. I'm just a fucking intense person, which is when I start talking about all the shit that I went through and then start kind of laying groundwork around what helped me. I also don't think that any of these people ever listened to what you just said and what I should have listened to, which is just fucking open up and and talk about it. And I think there's definitely things that as of recent, like there's someone that I really love right now. This is another person. This is why this conversation needed to happen, Sass, because this is another person.
Sounds therapeutic for you, Samson. You got a lot of stuff up in there, and then I'm not saying that
so
for any other reason.
Everyone,
There are so many people out there that need to hear something like this, and it doesn't go away overnight. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. You're talking about things that have happened years ago, and I'm just going to point it out because we're having an open conversation. It seems like there's still things that are building up, or still things that could bother you, and it's not impacting you on a daily basis, but there's still thoughts. There's still things that take place in your life that are going to make you think about that. And it's not easy. These are not the types of things that you could just say, I did a Sober October, or I shared about it with one person. No, these are things that you could put in the category of traumas. If you have a friend that you're not sure if they're going to die, that's traumatic to someone, or a family member that's an alcoholic,
this is my daily. This is my daily. I mean, from my childhood, there was a nice pause around middle school and the beginning and end of high school. Middle school and high school. There was a nice slight. No, there wasn't. The first girl I ever fell in love with died in high school. I have just had trauma after trauma since I was a little fucking kid, and they've been a bunch of big different ones. And right now,
people need to keep working on it. It's not something that you get over after day. It's whether it's seeing a therapist or whether it's talking to a friend on a regular basis. It's not something that happens from one conversation. Traumas are things that impact you for the rest of your life, and you got to work on it for the rest of your life, or else it's going to negatively impact you for a long time.
Well, I noticed that. I mean, and it's easy.
You're an insightful person, though. Not everyone's as insightful as you.
Yeah, well, then fucking hopefully they listen to podcasts. I always love, like, any job I've ever had. Not only do I enjoy it and I love it, but I couldn't wait to be a trainer or a teacher because there was so much shit that when I did that job, no one fucking told me, and I needed to struggle through it. So I feel the exact same way with everything else in my life, and the fact that all this pain that I've had to continuously go through, all of it is horrible. All of it sucks, and no one should need to deal with any of it. And I also realized a bunch of things I fucked up along the way and things that helped me fix it faster. So that's why I could sound preachy sometimes, where it's like community, be healthy, get good sleep, eat well, go to the gym, and wear it the fuck out.
I gotta say, everything that you've experienced isn't for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think that a person is whole unless they've experienced some sort of trauma in their life. It makes you a better person. You're a shell of a person. If you've had an easy life and you haven't had any hardships, you can't experience any kind of joy as much as you really want if you haven't experienced sorrow. You need to experience all these different things in your life to appreciate what you have, or else it's just flat. So I think that as hard as it was going through those things in your life, you're better off for it. You have a better character. You have better morals, ethics. You're a better friend. You're a better family member because you've gone through these tough parts of your life, and you're more than anything stronger. You know that if you've gone through those tough things in your life, there's nothing that you're going to come across in the future that you can't get through. And that confidence, that reinforcement, that makes all the difference when you're going through it in the moment.
Yeah, and that you took the words out of my mouth before, and how I've described one of the greatest insights I ever got. And this is, maybe not the best thing to say in this podcast, but from taking ayahuasca in the middle of the jungle with a real shaman. After the first time I ever did that, I basically said the first main lesson that hit me was, here's ground zero for where you're at, all right? Your emotional spectrum, all right? You'll never, ever be able to feel a day that is this good if you haven't felt a day that is this bad. And that was one of the main lessons that taught me, because ayahuasca is not just, I'm going to go out and trip. You're going to go, it was the most painful thing I've ever been through, all right?
Really?
Maybe not long-term years of depression, but it's definitely the most painful thing I've ever experienced.
Physically painful?
Physically, for me, physically painful. I mean, I was going to purge out, and that's what happens. It's like you get these amazing bursts of empathy and epiphany of realization. You get a light, right? Your entire life, you're like, some people will never know if what they did was the right or wrong thing to do. It's unclear of them because of society's constructs and all this bullshit. Here's the thing with all hallucinogens, but specifically DMT and ayahuasca, you're going to get a light, okay? And the consciousness and why it's about enlightenment, that light is now you understand what is actually the right thing and what is the wrong thing. I really think that a lot of the addiction issue and depression and everything that's going on right now is a result and raise of consciousness. The consciousness has gone up, and in that you're also going to be able to quickly understand what is right and what is wrong, and what I should do and what I shouldn't do, and what feels right, but the world is telling me something else, and what I feel like is the right way to live, but I can't live that way because of this life that I have in this world. And when you join those two things together, that's a recipe for disaster for a bunch of conscious people. So the smarter you are, especially if you're in that 10%, it could be, you could end up in a really, really bad place. I mean, why is it ever? I mean, we're sharing information so quickly. The amount that we're sharing information and the population is at a whole different rate now. It's like there wasn't even the ability for someone to be aware of a fraction of the shit of what you and I become aware of every day. They weren't even able to be aware of that.
Yeah.
You know what? That's why parents are, they're so protective to their kids now.
It's a big responsibility.
Overprotective parents make unconfident kids. You're unconfident. You start not having things in your life that you want to have. Then maybe you want to start numbing. I mean, it all goes back to like, kind of like, you know, consciousness. I'm aware of all these things that can go wrong. So I think about everything more.
Pros and cons that go with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know I've been going on rants, man, but there is a lot.
That's what this is about. It's about going on rants.
Up. Yeah.
No, it's a great thing. I'm happy to be here having this conversation with you. I just want to say I appreciate you having me. I meant to say that first thing when I sat down. I wanted to say thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming.
I think that this is a really cool forum, you know, for people to be able to listen to something and hopefully get something out of it, you know, but just hear two people talk. And hey guys, we didn't rehearse a thing. We had a minute conversation the other day where I think we got completely off topic and talked about old times. None of this is planned. None of this is scripted. We're not reading off anything. We're just two guys talking.
It's actually a blank note.
We got nothing
I put it there.
Not a single thing on it. We have no notes, guys. But it'd be a lot cooler if we did, but we don't.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's off the hip.
Yeah. Arguably, you'll probably stop more good from coming if you decide that you want to stop and take something happens between here, all right? So even
it's not tangible,
even in the moments that something's happening this way and I think of a thought and I want to hold it, it'll fuck up how yours is going. And if people don't realize by now that there is something that, especially with headphones on, bro.
I thought the headphones would stop it.
They put you in it. I mean, I hear you like you hear you. So, and you hear me like how I hear me. This is
the first time I've done something like this. Yeah. So I think it's pretty cool. I feel like I'm on like the Howard Stern show or something.
Yeah, the lights help for that effect. I mean, it's definitely do it yourself, but.
No, I think this is a great forum for people to be able to talk about real issues. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're bullshitting. We're getting to talk after we haven't talked to each other in about a decade, which is great in itself. Glad to see you're doing well, brother. But I appreciate you having me on your show. Yeah,
no doubt. I appreciate you coming. And, you know, I guess I want to finish the thought around, you know, another person that I truly fucking love right now that is also going through a few things that's unrelated to opiates, but probably benzo, that type of things.
Okay.
But it's just like open and honest with me, but maybe not able to get open and honest to a point that we were saying would be good for someone to do, to get it all out to someone else that you know would say that actually loves you. And like I've wanted to cut people off in the past before because I was either too convinced that they couldn't understand, or they just had a bunch of direction for me that I didn't feel like was good direction that I could take at the time, or I didn't want to hear it, or maybe it was just that I didn't want to get better yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that you see all of those things.
Absolutely. I think that one's the most common one, where people just aren't ready, and you need a push. No one's ever going to be ready if you don't have a push. So that's another good thing for us to put out there. Don't wait for the person to ask for help. You're going to need to confront them. You see the warning signs, put it out there for them, because it's going to be a long time before a person's going to be able to get over their own stuff on the inside, their own ego and pride, to be able to say something to those around them. They need that push.
And be hard and
shoot them straight. Don't hold back. Let them know what you're seeing. Maybe you're wrong, but what if you're right? What if the things that you're seeing that you think are troubling, that you're seeing in your loved one, are actually a bigger picture problem? Then, if you're confronting them about it, they're more likely to say something. And if you're wrong, what do you have to lose? But more likely, people have pretty good instincts. That's one of the best things I've learned from, honestly, not even years of education, but my own personal reading. Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
He put it out there that people are better researchers and people have better insight than they think. So listen to your instinct. That's a small statement based off of years of research. Listen to your instinct, because humans have more instinctual powers than they think they do. So listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your mind, and do something about it.
Yeah, that's I think that's right too. And obviously, when Malcolm Gladwell starts talking about
guys from Harvard, he's wicked smart. He's got to know what he's talking about.
Smart. Dude, before you got here, like Nick was aware that you'd be coming, and I'm like, yeah, Joe Sass coming on. He's like, Joey Sass. He was helping me get set up, and we were fixing the lights, and must have spent like 25 minutes of just being like, don't make me chase you, Joey Sass. You owe me a couple stacks.
It's never Joe. It's never Sass. It's always Joe Sass, Joey Sass. It goes together. It's just a 2-syllable first and last name. You clump it.
And then fun fact, and I'm not sure if maybe Dave sent me your number or whatever. I since then have changed it. But I was like, bro, what's your number so we could connect? You text me, and I thought I'd already checked my phone for Joe. Mm-hmm. See, there's a lot of Joes in my phone. No Joe Sass. And then you text me, and it comes up all one word, all capitals, don't, and then sass me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, when the fuck did I save that? Probably at a time neither of us were like what we are now. But all right, so there was something interesting you said also on the phone the other day, which was we were actually talking about a pretty unfortunate situation that had just recently happened. I think someone had passed away, but, and if that's something that you want to go through, feel free to. But the one part I wanted to pull out from that was how his situation he was at your facility, but he did not need to be there overnight all the time, right? Was he only there certain hours? Because
he was someone that we wanted to be there as often as he could. He had a bad problem, and his family were still in the enabling phase. And they said that, maybe he doesn't need as much help as you think he does. Maybe he doesn't need to stay over there overnight, but we'll bring him a couple days a week, or maybe he'll just do the daytime program and he'll be here during the night, and it was against recommendation. And unfortunately, it's all too common in the field that I'm in that people do die. That's the reality of this. People are dying from opiates. It's one of the deadliest epidemics our country has ever seen. So this is a person that was impacted by opiates, and his family pulled him out of the program earlier than we recognized professionally that he needed, and he passed. So that's someone that I'm going to hold in my heart. He was a good person.
Yeah, and I understand if you don't want to go into more depth there around that story, because there's things that you had said on the phone that I think were kind of important. I could always cut it out of this because this is not live. But whether or not you'd be willing, and I'll cut this, but
Talk to me.
Whether or not you'd be willing to talk about, like, they didn't think there was a use for your facility, because if he was already somehow involved in this program right now and still had the ability to relapse and fuck up, then why should he even be going to this facility? And the two things that I wanted to pull out of that were, well, first of all, how that's not good advice, or that's not the right mindset that they should have had. Second of all, do all facilities give the ability for someone to be there part-time like that? Because I think that's actually a really good thing, because obviously you're not going to fuck up if you're locked in a room for 30 days or 90 days and you're going to get out, and this is no testament to your willpower. So I actually think part of the program should be a wean out, but you're still getting
different levels of care.
Okay.
So what we talked about at the beginning was just the tip of the iceberg. Detox is the first thing that you can do, and that is a lot of times locked doors. Not always, but sometimes it is a lockdown facility where you're there for a week and you can't get out.
Yep.
After detox, there is residential rehab, and that is usually a 30-day overnight type of a thing. And
how long is detox?
Detox is about a week to 2 weeks,
okay.
Depending on the person, depending on physically what you're experiencing, and really blood pressure. A lot of things go into that, and they're monitoring you. It's something that's acute where they're checking every single day, looking at the numbers and seeing what you need. Some people need a week, some people need 2 weeks. After detox, there's residential rehab, where it's about 30 days, and that's where people are staying overnight, and they have programming from morning to night, keeping themselves fully engaged in individual and group therapy and learning from those around them. After residential rehab, the next level of care is something that they call PHP, which is a partial hospitalization program.
Okay.
So while residential might be in a hospital
Like a
type
halfway.
setting, not exactly. It could be where you're there in the morning. PHP is basically the amount of time that you're there. Typically, it goes from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But then you're slowly integrating yourself into society. Because to your point of what you were talking about earlier, it's no testament to your willpower if you're in a bubble. If you're in a rehab and you're just living there and you're not engaging in the outside world, you don't know if you're going to call your dealer or not when you leave. You don't know what you're going to do because you haven't had to test yourself. So you try to have as much of a titration process, as much of a transition process as possible. And maybe when you're at that PHP level of care, that's when you start integrating yourself into society by going to AA meetings at night. It's not part of a program, but you're going out there and you have a car. After that, the lowest level of care, that's a formal level of care, it's after PHP, it's something called IOP, intensive outpatient programming. So you're usually there for a couple days a week for a couple hours at a time, and you're still going through the group and individual therapy process, but you're also at that time starting to work. You're getting in the work world. You might be living at home. You might want to put yourself in a situation that does have some risks, but you've been prepared because you've just gone through 2 months, maybe 3 months of intensive therapy, transitioning yourself from this amount of time to this amount to this amount. So you do want to test those grounds if it's recommended. Some people need longer than that, but the IOP level of program, that could take months. That's something where you might want to live in a halfway house or recovery house while you're going through that process of going to programming during the day, working on other days, but still living in a house where you're surrounded by people that are going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you're describing, of wanting to give yourself as much of a transition as possible. And the numbers behind that, they actually say that when you're trying to get sober, you want to try to do that type of process for about a year. That
would make sense.
You want to stay around sober
sense.
people for about a year, whether it's in a recovery house or something like that.
Because I feel like best case scenario would be taking a 180 to how long you've had the issue and then making that the accept. And that's,
if you've been using for a decade, it's going to take longer than 30 days to change your habits, change your routine.
And like if a program was perfect, there might be some type of well-adjusted program that went for your next decade that slowly made, but we're not in a perfect world and it can't be like that. But I feel like a year is a pretty good, should be a pretty good marker.
Sure.
And as much as everything
hard,
that
though.
you
take time out of your life as an adult for an entire year, but if it's going to save your life,
for sure.
Why not?
And you know what is your time? What was your time? What does your time look like right now? What is your life like right now? Like, is that really time that is that wasted time? Like, is that a year of waste? Is a year even that long compared to how long the issue has been or anything like that? And as much as you walk through it and it sounds like such a nice little thing with a fucking bow on it, I just have several people popping up in my head, like how difficult that process alone, and we don't even need to get into the fact that.
But if you were willing to do anything for that drug, then why not do anything to save your life? Why not put as much effort, as much time, as much thought as you put into getting that drug and getting high for years? If you put that amount of effort into getting clean, you're going to be successful. But not everyone wants to do that same amount of work because it's not as fun.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, I've tried to, as much as not, I learned at a younger age, and I'm still not perfect at it, but with other close relationships unrelated to addiction, things that I had, that the best way to get a message across to someone wasn't telling them what they should be grateful for or what they should do. I slip up on it for sure, but I try not to even say should. I tried to get good with saying, here's my experience, all the fucking pain that I went through, and this is what I realized about it. I'm not asking for a you're right, I'm wrong, I am going to do this. I understood at a young age, communicating with someone else very close to me, that they were never going to get, I'm not going to get a thank you, I'm not going to get a you're right, and it needs to be a seed that I plant in their head now, and that slowly over the course of the next several years, things happen in life and they think about that seed again, and that seed keeps growing, and then maybe they're finally ready to make a difference or make a change for themselves. So I try not to put it all on them. And you know, the one thing that fucking sucks about even just adulting or being or regular life in general is like, yo, every day is not fun. It's not, I mean, like, you could get to a point where you have a good life that you enjoy, but like, you can't just have a good time all the time. Like, it's, you know,
life's not supposed to be a good time all the time.
and when
Life's
you
hard
do
work.
that, and then you got heroin, or you got something else that gets you high as fuck, or gives you an instant high, even arguably even weed. You get something that's instant like that and makes you just feel that good. Everything that requires work before there's a payoff, and that is a long-term thing, and whether that's saving up to go on a vacation or fucking, you know, slowly eating a diet that tastes like shit at first, and just to wean down your nutrition and get into a good place, it's not fun. And it's like, you know, you got to do a little bit at a time, and while you're doing it, it's not the best feeling, and a lot of it you could compare to even a level of suffering, you know, but isn't that all that life actually is, you know? So, but you know, that was a sober October thing, and that's why I didn't really agree for the people who didn't cut out weed as well, because the whole point is really more like, if your reward system operates on I want to get out of here, which is any type of, I guess nicotine I wouldn't put in there, but every other one, if you're like, you know, not sober on it, if you're drunk, if you're high, you know, if you're on Adderall, those are things, okay, if your reward system is operating on pop, smoke, drink, fucked up, or a different level of not sober, it's like, I want something great, and it means in order to get something great, all I need to do is something that is easy and instant. And then when everything else that is worth it for you to work on in your life isn't, I want something to work on, and I want this to be great, I want this relationship to be great, I want to be in a new job that will be great one day. These are not things that are just boom greats. They are, it's going to take a long time fucking great.
Gotta work towards it.
Yeah, so I saw with me that I just love psychology, so I just understood if I let my reward system tweak like that. That's the porn thing too, right? People think that I have some issue with sex. I do not have an issue with sex at all, you know, nothing like that. And we could get into the whole, you know, if you're watching porn and whacking off, which is one of the most divine things, you know, to some actors that are doing it in a disrespectful as whatever it is, that's not real. That's a whole different situation.
I'm gonna leave that for your next broadcast, brother.
Yeah.
Not touch that.
But it's an instant gratification thing. It's an instant gratification. I'm not aiming it towards your ass. Don't worry.
Keep it out.
But you know, it takes a long. I have had days where I was just like, I remember in 2016 it was the Christmas Eve. My mom looked at me. I was fucking kicking benzos. I wasn't even to what I thought was abusing them. I would wake up and my hair on my arm would immediately rise, and within my first fucking breath in, I would start being drenched in sweat, and this is something that just went on and off the entire day. It was physical. I was in hell. I would be shaking, and then it got to a point where I felt like I couldn't leave my place. Like, I felt like going to the grocery store was too much. Like, there was a point in time where walking down an aisle to get fucking bread at a Stop and Shop in South Boston, it was just like, there is no fucking way I'm leaving. I'd rather not eat than need to go and do that right now. All these things are happening, and I didn't really realize that it was from the fact that I was taking benzos over and over. And when I did, and then it went from I would kill for a chill pill to, like, if I could get my hands on an extra Klonopin, I needed it, to this best friend that I've had for the past several years that doctors told me this is going to be your best friend, and then it was, and was with me in every situation, had just been fucking knifing me in the back over and over and over. It fucked my girl. It punched my mother. It had just been slowly fucking everything up. And I was like, there is no way that I'm fucking with this shit ever again. And it was Christmas Eve of 2016. My mom's like, Steven, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, if you think this is bad, you have no idea what I've been going through. But the best thing is I can have that conversation with my mom. My mom and I are really close. That was huge, right? Like, I apologize to all my family that I just went fucking ghost on everyone for like a 5-year time period. I just wasn't showing up, not being around. It was like, what am I supposed to do? Go there and just be the bearer of all bad news? I'm too open and honest. I'm going to tell you how it is. And I can't just be the person that's talking about how fucked up their life is all the time. So so what did I do? I didn't go to the family things. I just completely distanced myself. And
pretty common.
That day, it's like, okay, buddy, 6 to 18 months, assume the latter, 18 months before maybe you're healthy enough to really get into a good groove again. All right. It felt like there is no fucking way I'm going to make it 18 months. All right. Like there is no way. And then a day becomes a fucking week, and a week becomes a month, and then it's a year, and now it's 2019, and I'm 3+ years after the fact, like damn near about to be 4, like straight on or whatever.
Good for you.
Awesome. And you're there, and then you start doing other little things that are good for you a little bit more. You add a salad into your diet. I eat kale now. What the fuck is that about? I grow it in a garden. But just these little things at it. But I'll tell you right now.
Doesn't happen overnight.
It felt like it could never happen. It felt like I was setting myself up.
And that's why people don't do it, because they're afraid that they'll never get to the point that you're at right now, where you're feeling good mentally, physically, because they'll try it for a week. They'll try it for 2 weeks. They'll try it for a month even. They'll try it for 2 months, and they still feel like shit. So they just say, screw it. I'm not normal. I wasn't born this way. It's in my blood. So I'm just going to continue down this path. It's got to be from a place within where you're giving yourself hope, and you have to give yourself these little goals. You have to have little objectives that you're going to give yourself of, this is my plan, and I'm going to give myself little rewards, and I'm going to be working towards this. And once I hit that goal, I'm going to give myself another goal. It sounds like you do a lot of little things like that without even planning it, but that's the way that people get to that end goal, when they're constantly working on something, baby steps, but it helps.
Yeah. I mean, that's the Sober October thing.
Sure.
I mean,
that's where you start.
Once you realize that if you don't have, all right, here's how I'll explain it. Here's the communication thing. I love me some stories that wrap back around. When you're in college, all right, all this shit that you got to do in order to, what are you doing? It's to graduate. There's your goal and there's your carrot. At the time, you could be so naive and oblivious to the rest of the world, but you just know, like, I need to get to that piece of paper that says that none of this was a waste. So you have a goal, aka you have something to aim at. As you aim at something, you'll start to realize what is good about the way that you're aiming and what is bad. Now, you still have something you're aiming at, and for us, it was a degree, which is I need to get good grades. So you start to learn what's the good ways about how I'm studying versus what are the bad ways. And then you could tailor it, and you could get better and better at it. Then I graduated. So after all the shit that I went through, it was like, get back into UMass. I got kicked out. Get back in, graduate. And holy shit, did I ride a different level of something I didn't know I was even capable of doing. I went from hustling, making thousands of dollars, to stopping it all and being like, okay, I'm going to go to jail if I don't behave myself. I got kicked back to Connecticut. I valeted cars at Hartford Hospital, started going to Manchester Community College, became a server at Chili's and a branch manager for a company called Collegiate Entrepreneurs. That shit saved me. I did not have enough time to be convinced. I just got in.
That's humility right there. You didn't care about anything.
And I was on all cylinders, even though it all fucking sucked. I mean, I just got kicked out and ruined everything. That's when all the powers came in my dreams, where I could fly and do all this other shit. That's where I felt like I was aligned, because I had something that was like, I knew there is no way I'm not getting back into that fucking school and getting that degree and graduating. It won't be for a waste.
One of the best things I did while going through graduate school is something that you just talked about. I was a waiter. And when I was getting my PhD, I worked and had clinical rotations that were almost 40 hours a week, 32 to 40 hours a week, where you're working for free. I was working at Johns Hopkins Hospital. great place, awesome reputation, but they weren't paying me anything. They weren't paying me $1. I was just working for free. I was an intern, and I was also going to school full time while having clinical rotations full time, and I had to pay off student loans somehow. So the only thing that you could do nights and weekends is become a waiter. That is an experience that I think everyone should have. That's how you learn how other people treat you, how you can treat other people in that position. It can suck the soul out of you because
talk about real teamwork too.
Absolutely. You're from every single, the back of the house to the front of the house.
That's who was just on. It's a GM of a high class steakhouse in Boston. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I work out. That's where I went Friday night, and that's why we couldn't do it Friday afternoon, because I still keep that in my rotation.
It's fantastic. Yeah. It's something that you have to work hard. And if you could do something like that after another job, I give someone all the credit in the world, because that's not easy work. And you're earning every single dollar that you make.
For sure.
Every single dollar.
But it's also good money.
Mm-hmm.
And
it is.
It's especially like where I work at. I mean, I'm a server assistant, which is AKA everything, bar back, blah, blah, that is not serving. The servers can walk out with, and people to say, like, try to downplay being a server. The top server there's walking away with more than 100 G's a year, and they got that in cash.
Yep.
Right? How many people with respected careers that are making $100,000 a year and that have a life? Listen, like, I keep in rotation because one thing's for sure, I have a shit ton of community when I'm at a restaurant. I also am moving around. It's always been much easier for me to, if my objective is put that over there, go grab those glasses down. I need to do that.
Time goes by
Boom,
fast.
I'm in the moment. Every day that I hate walking into that job, I already know I'm about to be leaving. And if you're in a community, I need to move. I can't. I get into things. I sit at a desk all day. I'm like this. I'm hunched into the computer. Mm-hmm. But the whole point being there, for me, when I finally got that then, right? And then it was like the next step in life, which arguably the next step after your college degree is the rest steps of your life. No more pitchforks behind you, right?
Hopefully have as much hunger.
Yeah, and hopefully you will hold yourself accountable, right, to whatever it is that you want. But if you don't have a goal or a carrot that you can wave in front of you, it's not gonna be it's gonna be a lot easier to get addicted or anything else, because it's not gonna be, if you don't continuously keep, let's not even say challenging yourself, make it more just about doing things that you want to do. It's about
meaning and purpose.
Meaning and purpose.
If you don't have a meaning in your life, if you're just going through the motions at a job that you don't care about, then why not fall into these patterns that aren't healthy?
Yeah.
That's something that is what you're describing. If you don't have a purpose, but you still have a job, that's not purpose. Sometimes a person's job can be their purpose. Sometimes a job can give you meaning, but usually there's something outside of that. It's not always work for someone, but if you develop those things outside of work, that's something that's going to keep you engaged in healthy coping skills, because life's always going to have stress. There's never going to be a time in your life where you're not experiencing things that are difficult, but how are you going to cope with those stressors? How are you going to cope with the difficult times of your life? Is it going to be through prayer? Is it going to be through meditation? Is it going to be through drugs? Is it going to be through alcohol? It's up to a person. Some things are healthy and some things are not. It's all about the way that you're going to pick, or the patterns that you fall into that are going to define the rest of your life. Our life is nothing but a culmination of decisions we make on a daily basis. That's what we are. We are basically the product of every single decision that we make on the small scale every single day. Mm-hmm. So if you're making poor decisions every single day, that's going to add up to one bad life. If you're making small, good decisions every single day, that's going to imagine something that's fantastic in your life. I truly believe that. I don't think that you could do all of those things and your life is still going to be horrible. It might not be what other people picture it to be or what society tells you it should be, but it's all about the mindset that a person has. If you're doing positive things, you're going to think positively. If you're doing shitty things, you're going to think bad about yourself, and then people are going to react that way to you. I think that is very powerful. The way that you look at yourself is the same way that people look at you.
Yeah, 100%. And the purpose and meaning, it's like what, for someone who has a why, they could get through any what or how or what. I always mess it up, but so when they say the opposite of addiction is community, I feel like it's because it's one of the things that registers on the purpose and meaning, Richter, and arguably probably the one that is going that we've evolved. First of all, like we evolved in max. I mean, there's a reason why we can only really have close relationships. There's a law or something like that with like 150 people at a time. They're like, we can't manage actual close relationships with more than 150 people at a time. There's an actual law for that.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. You should talk to some of my buddies. I swear on Tinder or Bumble, they have at least 150 going. So I would challenge that.
You know what I mean?
Shout out to my boys back home.
Well, they're in sales.
More power to them.
But you know what I mean, though? Like, an actual relationship. Meaningful relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the law, whatever that principle is or whatever, it stems also from like an evolutionary perspective. Whereas like as we evolved in a bunch of small groups. I mean, you look at
we're social creatures.
Yeah.
A human is about survival. That's what we're about.
Yeah.
Whether it's the instinct that's going to have a person fighting for their life or fighting for something that's going to give them satisfaction. We're all about survival.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not meant to be by ourselves. Our bodies aren't built that way. We're built to be social creatures. We're built to procreate. Yeah. So if you go against the grain and you're doing something that's unnatural for a human, there's going to feel pain. You have this Buddha up here right now. One of the guiding principles of Buddhism is that life is full of change. And the more you embrace change, the more peacefulness you have in your life. And the more you try to fight change, the more pain you're going to have in your life. And I believe that to be very true. I think that as a principle, if you think about that and you just know that life is going to be full of change, and the more flexible I am and the more I'm able to adapt to it, the more life's going to be easier for me. I think that people should try to keep that in mind when they're encountering those types of changes.
Yeah, for sure. So are there things... So if someone's trying to get better, or if someone's trying to help someone that's trying to get better, you want to like try to set up a path for success that would involve community. But then you could also say that there's other things that are going to help them have a better chance of being successful in a full recovery. So like, all right, so if it's about purpose and meaning, it's got to be, what I'm getting at, is there anything that your facility or other facilities do, or that there's programs that do, that help identify, basically, there's several categories that would fall into these things tend to give people purpose and meaning.
Sure.
And two of those categories are going to be like, it's completely, that person is their own. It's weird books in this genre. It's fucking comic books here. It's painting.
So you said it. You have to find what it is for each person individually. But there are things that we do that are different than other facilities. So one, we center our program around family therapy. So we want to engage the family as soon as possible, because that's going to be the support network when a person leaves. They are going to be the person that either is advocating for them or enabling them. So we want to work with them so they could understand about the disease of addiction. They could maybe hear things that they've never heard before about their loved one, that now they're in a place where they feel safe enough to share it, and they're not going to feel so emotional that it's going to lead them right back to their drug choice. They're in a safe place where they could share it. It's safe. It's coming off their chest and actually doing something about it, and they feel proud. So we're involving families very quickly in our programs. And two, we actually...
And are they like therapists that are in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, therapists facilitating this group therapy session. Either a group therapy session or an individual session, but getting as many family members involved, whether at one time or individually, that's something that we want to make sure is happening as part of their program. And another thing is letting people know that staying sober is better than when you're using. You're having more fun in your life. So we try to have as many outside activities as possible. And they might think that that's just like a nice thing that we do, whether we're going whitewater rafting or going to Six Flags or doing something on the weekends, going hiking. It just seems like it's an extra, it's a bonus. Oh, that's something that's going to take up our time. No, it's therapeutic. We want people to know that life is better when you're sober than when you're using. So the more things that you could do, that's classical conditioning. That is someone going through a psychological phenomenon that they don't even know. Yeah. They're enjoying life, and this is reinforcing their behaviors. This is reinforcing what they're doing by staying sober every day, because they're doing things on the weekends that, like you said, if you're using drugs, a lot of times you're isolating. This is getting them out there. This is them getting a place where they can actually enjoy life again when they may not have been enjoying life for years.
Yeah.
So engaging family, getting them active, getting them out there, and also making sure that they do develop that rapport with their counselor so they can feel safe, that they can feel that they're a place where they can talk about things that they may not have ever talked about before, because those secrets keep you down. So if you don't think that you can do it at rehab, what are the chances that you're going to do it outside of there? So we try to give them a safe space where they could slowly do it. So you do it on a small scale with your individual counselor. Then you might do it in group therapy. Then you might do it with family therapy. And then you might do it with the outside world. But you're getting to a place where you could feel comfortable saying, I'm a sober person. Just like it might feel weird talking about on a small scale, I'm doing Sober October. People say, what are you, a weirdo? Why are you doing that? Or do you have a problem? Think about people that are going out there and they have to tell their boss if everyone's going out for drinks after work. If you don't feel comfortable saying to a girl that we just talked about dating apps, if you're going out on a date, right? Say you're single, and what's the first thing that people do? Let's get a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
But you know that you're someone that if you have a couple of drinks, it's going to lead to 20 and you're going to make an idiot of yourself. But if you slowly have a transitional process where you're getting more and more comfortable sharing that I don't drink, you could say that on a date. And that's not something that's going to take out your sobriety. You could say that's your boss. And that's not something that's going to embarrass you because you've already practiced that in a different setting.
And I could see how someone like me would have a much easier time with just fucking saying it and getting it out. But
it's not easy.
Even just this month, I mean, I noticed a difference in the way I saw how when I had friends that needed to say that they were sober, even though I didn't judge them for it, I did see how immediately it changed the way that I thought when they were in the room and they said that they were sober.
Sure.
I probably do a way better job than most people.
There's a stigma. There's a stigma in our society about people that are sober.
It's like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Uh-huh.
And whether that's a what the fuck's wrong with you, like, are you an addict? Do you have a problem? Or that's a what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, everybody drinks, man. Everybody does.
You can't have a beer? Come on. No.
Yeah.
It's not something that comes naturally to people. I mean, I'm someone that's in the field. So I am someone that's used to hearing these things and not having a reaction to it. That's not the norm. That's not the norm at all. People normally have a reaction to someone telling them that they have an addiction or that they, at least one time in their life, even if they, right now, I know people that have had trouble with different substances in the past and now they drink. And that's where they drew the line, or they just smoke. Even talking about their past, their family still talks about it of, when he was going through that period of his life, they still think about them with in the back of their head that there's something going on, or afraid that at any given time they could snap right back into that bad period of their life.
And then how annoying is that when you're trying to get better to have a bunch of people thinking the incorrect thing about you? I mean, I worry about that.
Sure.
Saying what I'm saying on camera right now. I already know that a ton of people are going to get it twisted, but, you know, and I noticed too, like, there's a difference in the way people react if I was to be like, I'm doing Sober October versus I'm not drinking this month. I'm doing Sober October, or I'm not drinking this. Something there's a stigma around sober, around the word sober.
Absolutely.
Right. So even maybe phrasing it just like, I don't do pills. You know, I stay away from that. It's not my thing. Versus like, I'm sober. You know, that sounds more like, hi, I'm from fucking planet.
What do you need to recover
from?
I'm
what basically
you go through.
Exactly. Yeah.
A war hero. Like,
I just don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
It's not easy to talk about. So one thing that we can do, if we're just talking on a general basis on this podcast, do away with that stigma as much as we can.
Yeah.
That's a bigger task than we're ever going to be able to on a forum like this, but because the stigma is so large. But when people talk about it, don't make them feel bad about it. If you do your part by making one person not feel bad about it, that helps erase the stigma.
Because especially if you had an issue in the past, what a fucking Purple Heart that actually is, and you're still swinging for it. Like, you realize what you're actually doing, even if they're not gonna break, when you're like, just just have a drink. You could do just one. Like, I know people are in a naive way just thinking that it's like some innocent, you could do just one because they don't realize what it's not. But this person has went to fucking war for the past who knows how long.
Yeah.
I mean, probably.
And they made it out the other side.
Exactly, which is, you know, even if your life ain't all that.
That's a reputable thing. That's admirable.
So admirable.
But somehow we're looking at it as a negative.
Exactly. It's like, and it should be looked at like you served, especially if it's like, bro, you were in the 10% disposition category. I'm not. You were, and you never caved, and all this other shit has happened in your life.
And you're thriving, and you have a great job, and you have a great family, and you're still doing all these great things. Oh my God, I give people all the credit in the world.
Yeah,
a job like mine, seeing people come back a year later and they have their life back on track, I give them all the credit in the world. It is such an incredible task to be able to take this thing head on and then make life something that is enjoyable for yourself, to succeed, to do things that you thought you'd never do before and actually come to fruition. Unbelievable. I give everyone that's ever been in any type of situation like this all the credit in the world, because it is so much harder than people know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. It's even what I've gone through and what I've gone through and what I can relate to, I still know it's not shit to a few of the people that I love and have brought up before. And I mean, I feel like I give that Purple Heart, you know, like that level of respect, like that type of pain to need to go through and come out the other side. It's not easy, but if we're going to try to work this backwards, which is why I wanted to get into how you're identifying different things that have to do with purpose and meaning, and, you know, how in purpose and meaning is naturally also ingrained family, friends, community. So like that's a good thing to always work on, because there's going to be some people listening that have really big issues, or some that know that they have issues or whatever, or some that know that they're going down the wrong path. What are the things that I want to set myself up with now that maybe I'm and chances are if you're fucking up to that level, you're probably still going to fuck up a few more times, and maybe that's going to happen. But you're over here saying like, okay, try to take them hiking. Maybe we go to Six Flags. These random little things that are really more about adding in things that don't involve and probably will be more enjoyed doing when you're not high, and just not on pills, not smoke. I'm not even going to say when you're sober. I'm just going to say when you're not high. It's like, I know the things that I like to do more when I'm not high, and even hiking is one of them, because my ass will fucking be sluggish and twisting ankle. I know what I'm better at when I'm not high. So whatever that high is for you, and whatever you already know that you've identified that you're not as good with while you're high, what are those things that you can go and do and benefit from to find some additional purpose and meaning? Because for a couple of these people that I love, how much I wish I could just, this one dude would be the most, he could run a grow house, and I mean, not the best thing for a recovering addict to do, but the kid is like the dude in Fast and the Furious when it comes to cars versus history. When it comes to growing weed, this kid is a genius. Or when it comes to like certain making his own clothes, he's a genius. But I can't just give him a studio to make clothes or an appropriate grow rooms. But
you wouldn't appreciate it. Everyone has to find their own niche, and they have to work for it.
Good point.
And the more work you put in towards your goal, the more you're going to appreciate it, and the more you're going to hustle, and the more you're going to do everything you can to hold on to that. Do anything you can to make sure that it doesn't go away. Yeah. So, yeah, all of us, what you just said is so natural. You want to just give him a studio. You want to just give him this brand that he could just take over because he's going to be great at it. Or would he not even appreciate it at all if that was just given to him? But if he actually had to work for it, that's something that I think he would appreciate a lot more. So it might be tougher.
Are there things like I guess arguably the outdoors are things like just, that's really another community
that's
thing.
That's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because it really is so personal for everyone. It could be something as different as hiking and having your own clothing brand, like you said.
Yeah.
But ask yourself, what was that thing that you loved before you started getting high? When you were a kid, you know, before you smoked that first joint, what are the things that you liked in your life? Were you someone that was into skiing and you've put that on the backside for the past 10 years? get back into skiing. If you were someone that liked rapping, if you liked music, if you liked anything, find your passion and fully immerse yourself in it, become dedicated to it. And that's the thing that's going to bring you joy, because we're very instinctual. Like we were talking about a little bit earlier, you know, from a very young age, what you like and what you don't like. Get back engaged in those things that you fell by the wayside when you were using, or when you got into these destructive patterns. Get that back. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it better than when you were doing it before, because you're going to have a better appreciation for it.
Yeah. And I mean, you're going to laugh if you watch Jana's podcast that happened on Sunday, and here we are Monday. So it was yesterday. Jesus Christ, it was yesterday. Where I said, like, this part of the reorientation of my life was what were the things that when I was a kid I would lose hours in, that I loved before sex, before partying, before drugs. And I always loved to make movies and do editing shit, and I liked music. So, I mean, hip hop and camera related shit. And you know, the purpose thing in the Sober October thing, I mean, I wish I could bottle up the feeling of how much better my day is and will be tomorrow, because you and I did this and it's part of me and my little podcast thing or whatever. Like when I'm working on this, and it's carried me out of some really deep times, podcast or music related things, where I didn't want to spend a minute more in whatever, and then I just, next thing you know, lost 5 hours, because that was the thing I picked that you lose time in.
Yeah.
So
that's wicked cool.
I mean,
I love to hear that, man.
But that's
and you've always been someone.
That's
as
the
long
circle.
as I've known you, you've been passionate about music.
Yeah.
I mean, music is your thing. Some people like music. You love music.
Yeah.
And I'll put on a Wu-Tang CD and I'll know 3 or 4 of the songs. You'll know every lyric to every song on every single one of their albums.
I don't know about that, but I fucking love the shit out of them.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah. And
it's something
the
that
ones I love,
satisfies you. You get that satisfaction.
And
from
I love
listening
sharing
to music.
it.
It's healing for you.
Yeah.
I love that, man.
I mean, the sharing is where it's at. That's why when I love music, I almost love sharing great music as much as I love listening to the great music in the first place. That's why I was so tired of having conversations where there'd be this, once again, the sharing would come down to what could help train or teach someone faster than them needing to go through it themselves, because it's something great that they should know about. So
I guess, you know, I'll leave you with this. This is something that you're talking about, of how do you find that thing? And I don't think it's a coincidence. The first thing that came to my mind, I said, if you like skiing, the thing that I love more than anything, and I'm trying to think.
I was wondering.
Snowboarding is something that I'm very passionate about. And what I noticed is that was something that I always did as a social thing. I'd get 2 or 3 friends, we'd go to the mountains, we'd snowboard. But it was one of the first things that I noticed, that when I was at UMass, I would get in my car after class and I would drive to the mountains by myself and I would snowboard. I would get lost in the mountains for hours by myself. So what I'm taking away from that is, what is that thing that you could do by yourself that you don't need anyone else around you to actually love? Because that is something that, for some people, it's sport. Some people, I'm trying to get athletic. Some people, it's showing off. For me, it is a passion in the truest sense of the word, where as soon as I hit the slopes, I'm in a different world. It's almost a spiritual experience for me. Everything is white. It's pure. You could smell the nature around you. It's not the same for everyone. I don't hear other people talk about it the same way that I talk about it. So for you, as passionately as I'm talking about this, what is that thing for you? Maybe it's music. Maybe when you close your eyes, you're taken to a different place. Maybe when you're on a board, you're taken to a different place. Maybe when you read a book, maybe that's your thing. But it's different for everyone. And it might take a little bit of reflection. But for me, it's real quick. I know what it is for me. And that's something that I will never lose. And for anyone else that's trying to find that thing inside of them, go back. Go back to that thing that you can do by yourself, that you don't need anyone else around you to enjoy. And that's the thing.
You made a really good point when you said, and it's something I think I could be better at, or at least in identifying what more of those things that even if I don't have an issue right now, what are those things that if I want to identify more ways to make my life better? It like struck a chord with me when you said that snowboarding was always something that I used to do socially. I think there are certain things in my life along the way that I paired with socially and or getting high in some sense, and then maybe never gave them a valid shot again, non-socially or not high.
Yeah.
So there's other things, and like I've never just gone snowboarding high, but I love snowboarding. Not high, sorry. I've just never gone snowboarding on a non-social way. I've always been with somebody else. But I feel like if I wanted to get better at adding more meaning into my life, I already love snowboarding, and I've kept some stigma around needing to be with people, or not stigma, but I've thought I've needed to be with people to go and do it. There's one thing for sure. I used to be able to smoke weed. So I cannot do that. And I like being sober when I snowboard. No, nothing for me. If I do, I'm going to be all slow. I like going fast. I mean, but regardless, like, you know, because some people might say, I can't pick anything. I can't pinpoint anything. I wasn't like Samson playing with cameras when I was this age.
Everyone has something.
And maybe think about some of the things that you naturally paired socially, and maybe that you turned your back on because you thought you were only good at it, or you could only do it when you're high. I mean, to this month, I went with my brother to climb Mount Monadnock. We were in the car. We freestyled for like, it was an hour and 43 minutes. We were probably freestyling for an hour straight, back and forth, Ninth Wonder song after Ninth Wonder instrumental, over and over and over. I was so good. And I was like, what the fuck? Well,
And you didn't need to be high.
I had always paired it with weed. And there was probably a lot of the weed that was working against me sometimes.
No doubt.
It's hard. I was in a good place. I'm with my brother. I'm in a good mood. We're about to go do something
fun. You had your natural high going on.
Yeah, there's a natural high involved as well. But there's another thing. I realized that when I went out dancing with a bunch of people at the bar, there would be moments I felt fucking drunk. I was sober as shit dancing, and I only know that I felt drunk because there'd be moments where I came out of it and I realized how sober I really was. And it came down to giving a fuck more or less. And when I didn't give a fuck more is when I felt drunk. And when I gave more of a fuck, I became more conscious of the room and everyone around me. And then I just...
When people take drugs, they get an increase chemically in their brain of endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. Those are the 4 places that people really get pleasure from chemically in their brain. Those raise, whether you're taking drugs, whether you're having sex, whether you're eating a good cheeseburger, whether you're on a roller coaster, if you're doing something that you enjoy, those receptors are going to be off the hook. This is your normal level of enjoyment that you're feeling during the day. If you're doing something you're enjoying, it's going to go up here. When you're taking drugs, it goes up here, and then when it comes down, it doesn't go back down to normal. You're depleted, and then you're depressed. And that's when people are going through that experience of what you're talking about, of the mental, physical, emotional detox or withdrawal. You're physically feeling like shit because the chemicals are low in your body, but mentally you're depressed because you abused.
Yeah, you blew out your serotonin.
The serotonin, it was abused. Normally, if you're having sex, you're able to get up to this point of, man, I'm feeling great. But what you're doing is then saying, I'm going to do that times 10 because you're putting something in your body that's not natural. And that's when you get down to that low level. And that's when it takes a while to build back up to where you are.
So what are some like other natural things? And where I've found them is in like working out, obviously better
Big
foods,
time.
but even, you know,
It
like
really is anything.
probiotics, melatonin, and
There are different supplements that
5-HTP.
you could take.
Yeah.
I'm big on holistic recovery and not trying to just fill something up that is something that could potentially be a problem. I'm very big on exercise. I'm very big on jogging, of getting those natural endorphins up and just being out in the air. But really, it can come from anything. It could come from exercise, could come from jogging, but it could come from just doing things that you're enjoying. It could be from having an interaction like this. This could raise the serotonin levels in your body.
100%.
And that's when you actually feel those natural highs.
Yeah.
So find that thing, stay engaged, find a community. I think that those are all really important points of when you're trying to stay clean and hold yourself accountable. You got to have those other things in your life. If you're just sitting in front of a TV, you're sitting in your bedroom, it's going to make it a lot harder for yourself.
Yeah. What do you, well, I also had heard that the runners high and they did an experiment. There's a TED talk on it to show like, Because when you're younger, you grow more new brain. I think it's neurons. You grow them at a faster rate, and as you get older, it slows down.
Yep.
So they started to do studies on the people that were able to grow them at an older age and what their habits were that were doing it. And there's definitely a few in between that, and they couldn't study them all, but there's a few in between that help grow new brain neurons. But the one that kicked it up to almost like young level youth was running.
Absolutely.
And running always did. And
Every
I don't
doctor
know.
you'll ask will tell you that.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If it's not running, it's even just walking.
Yeah.
It's moving, getting the cardiovascular workout, getting your body moving,
Yep.
get the heart pumping. That's the best thing that you could do to keep your mind fresh. Just
Yeah.
walking around and making sure that you're active.
You're utilizing all five senses. You're
Yeah, taking it
constantly
in.
thinking about a different depth perception, smells, colors, everything.
thing.
Yeah, and you're moving.
But if you want to ask your doctor, this is the answer that my doctor gave me. What are the two best things that you can do for your health? I found it very interesting that he said jogging is one of the best things that you could do for your health. He said, but you want me to tell you the number one thing that you could do for your health? Don't smoke. I was like, what? He's like, don't smoke cigarettes. That's probably the best thing that you could do for your health if you just don't smoke cigarettes.
Really?
That's what he said. Interesting answer, but
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest killers in our country right now, probably in the world right now. Cigarettes, nicotine, tobacco is something that's killing people hourly, probably multiple people in our country every minute. I don't know the numbers on it, but it's something that's bad. So if you could refrain from doing that, you're going to put years on your life. And this isn't a podcast to say don't smoke.
Yeah, yeah.
You can do whatever you want, but that was just the answer that my doctor gave me.
Well, I don't know if we talked about this on the phone before, but I have this theory and there's definitely a different, way bigger group of one than another. But for one man, something like smoking or drinking could save their soul, and it was like, we'll use smoking as the example, could save their soul, and for another one, it could absolutely ruin them. And I think that the difference in the one that it saves their soul or it doesn't do anything wrong to them is my asshole fucking grandfather. When he was alive, he was just like a horrible dude. He was fucking drank until the day he died, and I don't know that much about him. I'm not talking shit like that, but I mean, that dude, when he was smoking packs a day and he's out on his front porch in his rocking chair and he's ripping through butts, that man was not saying, I should probably stop smoking cigarettes, these aren't good for me, these are unhealthy, blah blah blah, I'm probably gonna get cancer from this. He was like, fuck it. Now, there's way less of him than there are people smoking cigarettes every day going, oh, damn, I don't have enough energy. I got this fucking voice right now. I know that these are not good for me, and I know that I should probably stop. So there's something to be said about every day doing something you know you shouldn't be doing. And I feel like that would probably factor in to why the doctor is like, don't smoke, because that's not just an unhealthy thing that you're doing. It's an unhealthy thing on top of having a conscious mindset that you know you shouldn't be doing something and you're doing it every day. And that will just it could potentially.
There is also research, since it is so well understood that cigarettes physically kill you. It's understood in research-wise that smoking is a passive way of long-term suicide, actually. It's actually understood like that because you know that what you're doing is killing you, maybe not in that moment, but they found a correlation between suicide and over a long time of passive suicide in people that smoke cigarettes. An interesting way to think about it. If you're doing something that you know is going to kill you eventually, is that suicidal?
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's a good thing to become made aware of.
Yeah.
And then ponder, you know? So, all right, so that's a good point. So does like your facility or anyone else, are there natural ways that are automatically going to give someone the resources to potentially, is it, you know, because I know a lot of people that have addiction issues or that are in recovery, and holy shit, do they rip butts and rip whatever, you know, like, but if the doctor's advice is literally that, then maybe we should pair.
It's hard to give everything up at once.
Yeah.
So people are making one of the toughest moves of their life, and they are quitting drugs, something that dominated their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their body physically. Yeah. To ask them to give up another thing is tough. So typically, at most places, they won't say give up cigarettes and give up drugs at the same time. They might say down the road, something you want to look into, but it's not something that they don't recommend it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, a lot of people that use drugs are also cigarette smokers. And if they're going to give up one, they're going to hold on to that other part for dear life.
Yeah. And, at that point, I can't even blame them. I mean,
it's tough, man. It definitely is.
But it would be nice for them to have a Joe Sass in their life that made that one day off cuff made the comment that their doctor told them that the number 2 was this.
Not gonna lie, definitely left an impact on me.
I bet, yeah. I mean, it's gonna leave an impact on the way that I think about it as well. So that's crazy, man. I mean, are there other things that that we haven't gone through in like the kind of recovery process that at least go down in your facility or that you guys try to focus on that are worth bringing up?
So I think that there are 2 things that we focus on in our facility, and at a lot of different drug and alcohol rehabs. They focus on the 12 steps, which are not psychologically based, and then we concentrate on psychoeducation. And that could be cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing.
What's dialectical behavior therapy?
So dialectical behavioral therapy, that's something that very much focuses on mindfulness, staying in the here and now. So paying attention on purpose and not being depressed about things that may have happened in the past and not being anxious about things that have happened in the future. But if you're very intentional with your dialogue, and if you are aware that 2 things could have a dichotomy of being complete opposites, but true, of if you're a depressed person and you sometimes want to die, but then sometimes you want to live. Those are 2 things that are opposites, but they're both true at the same time. Maybe at opposite times, maybe at the same time, but that's what dialectics is. It's talking about things and having the realization that there are 2 opposite things that could be true at the same time. So it was originally for people that had emotion regulation issues. So it talks about interpersonal effectiveness, emotion regulation, and mindfulness as the main features of what dialectical behavior concentrates on. And then cognitive behavioral therapy is another very important part of drug and alcohol rehab. It really concentrates on how your emotions impact your feelings and how your feelings impact your behaviors. So if you're behaving a certain way, it's going to impact the way that you feel. And if you feel a certain way, it's going to impact the way that you're letting other people see these emotions in you. So it's your thoughts, it's your feelings, and your behaviors. That's the best way to put it. So the way that you're thinking is going to impact the way that you're feeling. The way that you're feeling is going to impact the way that you're acting, and vice versa. They're going both ways. So you want to try to be more positive and more intentional in your behaviors and in your thoughts. And the thoughts is the part that you want to concentrate on. Yeah. If you're thinking positively, you're going to feel positively. You're going to act positively. That's the thing that you have most control over.
Yeah. So I had to, part of the, because I had been thrown out of a Jeep and landed on the back of my head, and then had like a 3-hour time period from the highway to the hospital that my brain basically, I was there, but I wasn't there. I didn't remember any of it, but I was walking around and I was in complete shock. I didn't get any visions from that experience back until like 5 years later when I saw something very similar happen. I'm fucking 14 staples back to the head. I can't even believe I'm alive. Saw my friend dead on the ground. So the PTSD and traumatic route that I had to go down there's a lot of stuff I didn't like, but some stuff that I took a lot of value out of, and I had to go through cognitive behavioral therapy. And they did a number of different tests, things like different size rings that you needed to reorder and put back on the other side. Things like, we're going to tell you 18 words, you're going to tell us back how many you could remember. We're going to tell you the 18 again. Now tell us all of them that were furniture. And you're like, oh, there's a couple in there that I forgot the first time I recited back. And you realize things like, hey, your brain has all these compartments and it's in there, but how much you're paying attention and how much thought you're putting into each one of them will show you, your basically attention span for the moment at that point in time. It was very interesting. Even like click every time you see a dot on the screen, which when you do that for 15 minutes straight, the way your intentional cognitive intent is on doing that will be in and out.
It's really interesting. That's why we have the 2 parts really that we focus on. So it's 12-step recovery, which you may have heard the 12 steps before.
Yeah.
It's basically at the beginning, realizing that your life is unmanageable and that you're powerless over this addiction and that you look towards a higher power. It's very spiritually based, 12 steps. They have the word God or higher power in almost every single one of the 12 steps. So it's using that as something that's going to motivate you and give you meaning, give you purpose, and give you enough humility to be able to make changes in your life. And then having the psychological basis of things that you're really going to take away from that thing inside of you. If there's most likely a hole inside of every single person that has drugs or alcohol that they're filling with drugs or alcohol, whether it's emotion, whether it's a pain, it's something. So the more psychological work that you can do on yourself and you could realize how to cope healthy ways with that thing, the less likely you are to do unhealthy things like drugs and alcohol and fill that hole. But you really need to do a lot of work and insight and figure out what that is and figure out what's going to trigger you and what's going to, not just trigger you, set you off, or make you want to relapse. There's a lot of psychological work that needs to be done. So we're very psychologically based, but also very 12-step based.
Gotcha. And so it's cognitive, and what was the other one?
Cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy are probably the two biggest.
Like dialectical would be like
mindfulness.
So, but like I've heard sometimes that's like say you needed to control your anger, or that you got mad, or something was upset you, that simply in the moment acknowledging I am mad, like look at me, I am mad.
That's dialectical behavioral therapy.
Okay.
It's seeing your thoughts on a conveyor belt.
Like understanding
I'm angry. I can understand that I'm angry. I'm not going to act on my anger. I'm not going to punch a wall, but I could see that thought passing by. I could feel that emotion, and I'm not going to do something about it because I'm aware of it. Yeah. It's awareness of what's going on and being intentional with your thoughts.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of what's like the one-liners that could make because someone's going to hear cognitive therapy and dialectical, but like I'd like someone to hear a couple one-liners that make them understand those things in a nutshell, to at least become aware of it.
Conveyor belt's a good way to think about
Conveyor belt, and one of my favorite quotes of all times, and it may have even been from a Malcolm Gladwell book. It was from I'll remember. I brought it up before, but you're not the one. You're not the voice in your head. You're the one that listens to it. The first true step to real enlightenment or consciousness is understanding that you are not the voice in your head. You are the one that listens to it. And
I like that.
And that is where people are like, I can't meditate. I can't this and that. You're never going to be able to just shut everything off when you go to meditate. It's this consistent game of, because you realize you go down this hole and things start flurrying in there. They're probably things sometimes they're not at all, but sometimes you're worrying and they're flurrying in there because they're important things that actually do mean a lot of things. But the act of meditation is going, there's me being worried about my friend again. Yep. There's me, and then think again, okay, that's me thinking. Okay, back to breathing. Just back to that, getting back to like that. And that has helped me so much, right? Like amazing. Bill Burr said, don't be afraid to meditate. You could really let a lot of shit go. And I love that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, man. Well, I got to say, I've really enjoyed talking to you tonight.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to you as well, man. I think that there's going to be a lot of things that came out of this that can help a lot of people.
I'm looking forward to hearing it and going through it with you and really seeing what we can dig up from this.
So I'll throw up information on the screen here at this point in time, but if someone wanted to get in contact with the facility or with you, how would they go about that?
Honestly, I'm going to put it out there. You can call my cell phone. I'm 24 hours a day. My number is 609-213-8282. If you or a loved one needs help, call me. I'm going to see what I can do to help them. My name is Joe Sass, and I will do anything I can to help you or your loved one. So don't be afraid to call me.
Damn, bro. That's fucking a powerful way to drop it right there. You're a good man.
No doubt.
And if they did want to from afar, because 80% of the buyer's journey is done before they end up talking to you. Mm-hmm. What's the name of the facility? What's
Avenues Recovery Center.
Avenues Recovery.
And we have places in Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, a couple in New Orleans. We have one in New Hampshire and Oklahoma.
Right.
So there are a lot of different options. Maybe you need a change of your environment. Maybe you're from New Hampshire but you want to go to Oklahoma. There are different options for you. So Avenues Recovery, it's an incredible place where people really are changing their life. Reach out, and we will make sure that we can find you help one way or another.
Good shit. Joe Sass, thank you very much,
Samson,
brother.
appreciate you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
You as well.
Amen.